Chapter 731. Above the northern sea, human figures were everywhere. Standing in the air, there were sect masters from the land and ancient demons from the sea. All of them were gazing into the distance. Up ahead, a black wave rose against the heavens, scattering the clouds and cleansing the blue sky. Two males were coldly confronting each other. The tide surged, and the waves were terrifying. Yi Fan and the nine-headed flood dragon king were several hundred zhang apart. There was a formless domain between the two, and with a hong sound, a 10,000 zhang deep abyss formed. Endless seawater rushed into the heavens, exposing the seabed below. This was the power of the geniuses of the present age. They didn't even take action, but just the formless domain of confrontation wasn't something an ordinary person could endure. There was no chance of survival within. The nine-headed flood dragon king was unrivaled in the younger generation of the northern sea. He moved unhindered under the heavens and had never tasted defeat. Naturally, he had the qualifications to look down on the present age. The only remaining descendant of the human race's holy emperor? I'm definitely going to keep this servant. He stared at the child on Yi Fan's shoulder, and his eyes flickered with a demonic radiance. The 5-year-old child was extremely obedient. He understood that a great battle was about to happen, so he didn't utter a single word. He only wrinkled his little nose and stared at the nine-headed flood dragon king with his bright black eyes. Making the last descendant of the human race's holy emperor become your servant. Yi Fan walked forward step by step. His body was surrounded by golden holy light, and he was like an ancient war god that crossed time and space to walk over from the past. Correct. He is quite similar to the legendary human emperor. He is more than suitable to be my servant. The nine-headed flood dragon king had his hands behind his back as he calmly spoke these words. Who do you think you are? Even if an ancient great emperor is reborn, or an immortal reincarnated, I will still kill you. Yi Fan took action. Mountain-embracing imprint. He stood in the void with a mountain in his arms. A black mountain descended from the sky, immediately causing the heavens to collapse and the seas to roar. The sun and moon lost their radiance, and this place became a collapsing world. Rise! The nine-headed flood dragon king shouted. 9 azure dragons rushed out from his back, defying the heavens and coiling around the black mountain. The dragons' bodies were all pulled into the mountain. The black mountain collapsed, and the 9 azure dragons rushed out. They were bold and powerful, and every single one of them was covered in dense scales as if they were cast from black gold. They pounced towards Yi Fan with boundless ferocity. Yi Fan was as steady as a boulder. Facing the 9 azure dragons, he reached out with his huge golden hand, covering the sky and covering the earth as it slammed down. The embracing mountain seal was endless. His 5 fingers became 5 golden mountains that pressed downwards, colliding with the 9 true dragons. Azure light and golden light burst forth, releasing a shockwave that could topple mountains and overturn seas. Dragon battles in the wild. The nine-headed flood dragon king let out a loud roar. The 9 true dragons circled above and let out roars that sounded like raging waves that shook the heavens and earth. The boundless great wastelands appeared within the mountains. 9 dragons leapt about, as if they arrived in the ancient great earth. They swooped down, attacking the 5 great golden peaks. This was a collision like a comet crashing into the ground. Mountains appeared one after another, boundless and boundless. 9 dragons circled about and collided with the 5 golden mountains. Endless light and boundless divine might destroyed all living things. Bang! In the end, Yi Fan's golden hand shook forcefully, shattering this part of the world. Everything ceased to exist. What embracing mountain seal! What true dragons! Everything had disappeared. The nine-headed flood dragon king spat out a mouthful of turbid air in the distance. His expression was calm as he said, "You didn't disappoint me." Yi Fan didn't say anything. His expression was grave. This was an unparalleled great enemy. No wonder he could move unhindered through the world and had never tasted defeat. He was known as the Northern Sea's unrivaled expert. This was a great world filled with resplendent stars. Every region produced world-shaking geniuses, all of them heaven-warping talents. The Northern Sea's nine-headed flood dragon king's reputation was not in vain. Yi Fan collected little pupil into the pristine jade bottle. His entire being became indistinct as if he was about to merge into the world. He became one with the ocean and the void. He advanced step by step. His own aura disappeared as he synchronized with the world's pulse. He activated the power of the great Tao and struck forward. Heaven and man as one. In the distance, many people revealed looks of surprise. Those who could resonate with the Tao were the most terrifying. They were close to the origin of the Tao and would often display inconceivable power. At my level, do you think you can kill me with just this? The nine-headed flood dragon king's lips curled into a cold smile. A dragon leapt up, and the 24 heavens appeared behind him. In the distant sky, everyone gasped. Just how great of a divine ability was needed to produce such a scene? The nine-headed flood dragon king was too ambitious. He wanted to use his own strength to produce the 24 heavens. Even though it was still hazy and had just begun to take shape, this was definitely a type of great boldness. Who would dare to evolve it? Who would dare to do such a thing? The 24 heavens were like 24 great gates that led to the outer realms. They opened in this instant and surged with boundless world force. Auspicious clouds appeared in tens of thousands of streaks of auspicious light as they suppressed Yi Fan together. Yi Fan was one with the heavens and one with the ocean. He pulsed with all things. He was using the power of the Tao, and there was an undying divine radiance. Explosive sounds rang out one after another in the northern sea. Yi Fan used the power of the great Tao to forcefully collide with the 24 heavens, producing sounds that resembled landslides and tsunamis. Boundless light and boundless sound filled every inch of space. It was as if great stars were shattering one after another and scattering into the vast ocean. Yi Fan retreated from the state of the Tao and was no longer synchronized with all things. He truly appeared in the void and stood on the Black Sea. The nine-headed flood dragon king appeared in the sky with the 24 heavens behind him. He was like a deity at the center of the myriad worlds, overlooking all life as if he was the only sovereign. The remaining bloodline of the human race's heavenly emperor isn't enough to be my servant. I'll add you as well. His voice was bone-chilling. Yi Fan said, "You're afraid." Me? Afraid? I've roamed the world unhindered until now, but I still don't know how to write the word afraid. You said all that just to provoke me to find a flaw. This means that you don't have any confidence and are afraid, said Yi Fan. The nine-headed flood dragon king mocked. I'm only speaking the truth. You and the heavenly emperor's descendant will be my servants. You're afraid that you'll lose to me and break your unrivaled legend. Even if your strength is similar to mine, you'll still lose this battle. Yi Fan said calmly. Boom. The great battle erupted once again. This was a great battle of life and death. In the blink of an eye, more than 500 exchanges had passed. They fought until the sun and moon dimmed and the northern sea boiled. Suddenly, when the battle reached 800 exchanges, Yi Fan split into 4. 3 auspicious clouds rushed out from his head and turned into 3 other true bodies. Every one of them was himself. His flesh and blood were solid, his battle intent could split the sky and his divine power was like the sea. They roared together, shaking the distant islands and causing them to collapse. The seawater below dried up and evaporated, revealing the seabed tens of thousands of zhang below. Ah! These Yi Fans were in a frenzy. Their hair was messy and their eyes were like blades. They surrounded the nine-headed flood dragon king and attacked with great force, wanting to turn him into meat paste. This was an incomparably tyrannical scene. Many cultivators in the distant sky were blown away like fallen leaves by the shockwaves and many people fell from the sky. What? That's the unrivaled art of the 8 Visions Temple Master. A divine technique that shouldn't be passed down through generations. How could he know it? 1 Qi turning 3 pure ones is a divine technique used to slay deities. How could it appear in his hands? Everyone was shaken and couldn't understand what was going on. Astonishment was written all over their faces. Taiyin Godchild's expression changed immediately and said, "How could he know it? That's the divine technique of my sworn brother Yin Tianda. No one in this world can imitate it. It hasn't been passed down." On the battlefield, the nine-headed flood dragon king was truly stunned. A chill emerged in his heart. The legends regarding this unrivaled secret technique were widespread and everyone in the world knew about it. It was incomparably terrifying. Rumor had it that the 1 Qi turning 3 pure ones wasn't an incarnation. One person could create 3 copies of himself, each of which was the true body and possessed the exact same divine might as the original self. The nine-headed flood dragon king felt a chill in his heart. 1 Yi Fan was already terrifying enough, but now there were 4 of them. How could he fight? He didn't dare to fight to the death. He dashed left and right in an attempt to fly out of the battlefield. He wanted to wait for the effect of the one qi turning 3 pure ones to disappear before killing his enemies. Had Yi Fan really mastered the one qi turning 3 pure ones? The answer was of course no. He had seen Yin Tianji use it before. Now, he was merely using the fighting secret character to imitate its form. It could only allow one of the true bodies to possess terrifying divine might, but it could only last for a few breaths. The other true body had been taken over by his primordial spirit and could also unleash terrifying divine sense combat power. The third one was merely an imitation of the true body's form. On the battlefield, his true body was incomparably tyrannical and unleashed his full combat power. The scene was naturally horrifying as his roar shattered a few deserted islands in the sea. The 9-headed flood dragon king's heart was filled with fear. He was no longer in the mood to fight and thus revealed a huge opening. Yi Fan's true bodies went against the heavens and fiercely attacked. The 9-headed flood dragon king's combat power was divided into 4 parts and attacked the Yi Fan simultaneously in an attempt to escape. At this moment, however, Yi Fan didn't care about anything else. He activated the power of his true body and unleashed the 6 paths of reincarnation fist, pressing forward with an indomitable will. With this attack, 6 ancient universes appeared. The stars shifted, the heaven and earth were suppressed, and the 24 heavens were covered. Everything disappeared. At this moment, everyone could only feel an ancient and inextinguishable fist intent. Shatter the heavens. At this moment, time seemed to have frozen. There was only this fist in the world. It was as if he could tear through the ancient time and space and destroy everything in the present. He charged into the boundless future and was unstoppable. As soon as the fist was unleashed, the world became silent. Ah! The 9-headed flood dragon king screamed. First, his hands turned into powder, then his arms, and then his head and torso. All of them were completely destroyed. He faced the enemy with a quarter of his combat power. How could he block the 6 paths of reincarnation fist? There was only a bloody mist left in the air. Everyone was stunned. With one punch, the mountains and rivers collapsed. This kind of fist intent was too terrifying. Was the 9-headed flood dragon king dead? This was everyone's question. An unrivaled expert of the North Sea had never been defeated in his life. Could it be that his name would be forever removed from the world after his first defeat? This result was too tragic. You killed me, you actually killed me. A voice reverberated in the air like thunder. The vast sky was shaking as if endless thunder had descended. The 9-headed flood dragon king. Everyone was shocked. He was crushed in the vacuum. Was he still not dead? How powerful was he to be able to do this? In the sky, an enormous green flood dragon appeared. It was truly too large, covering the sky and covering the earth. It stood there majestically like a mountain ridge. It actually had 9 heads, each like a majestic mountain. However, one of them was crushed and was badly mutilated. Fresh blood dripped down and fell into the sea, dyeing the water red. The 9-headed flood dragon king has 9 heads and 9 lives. It seems that the legend is true, esteemed Xianxia said to himself in the crowd. You killed one of my lives. 100 deaths cannot atone for this. I will use your divine blood to wash away this humiliation. In the sky, the huge flood dragon king roared. The 8 giants filled the sky and cast a large shadow on the sea. So you still have 8 lives? Within 8 moves, I will kill you like a dog. Yi Fan's voice was not loud, but it resounded between heaven and earth, making everyone tremble. They were horrified as if they had heard the oath of a demon. Chapter 732. Kill me in 8 moves, kill me in 8 moves. The 9-headed flood dragon king repeated. His voice grew louder and louder, like a sea of thunder rumbling in the air. He retracted his flood dragon form and transformed into the appearance of a young man. His left hand wielded a divine shield while his right hand wielded a 9 dragons auspicious spear. He pointed it at the sky as he roared, There has never been a person who dared to look down on me like this. Chi! He transformed into a beam of divine light as he rushed down. The spear in his hand seemed to be carved from rubies, sparkling and translucent, resplendent like blood. 9 dragons coiled around the shaft of the spear, looking extremely vivid and lifelike. The 9 heads gathered at the tip of the spear as they spat out a sharp blood-red spear tip. This spear strike contained all the Tao energy in his body. The 9 dragons gleamed with multicolored light, and the tip of the spear was as translucent as a blood diamond, causing the hearts of those who looked at it to tremble. The coldness it exuded was so cold that it pierced into the bones. It pierced through the air for tens of miles, arriving before Yi Fan in an instant. What a good treasure! Yi Fan sighed in admiration. This spear was forged from the blood diamond of the 9 heavens divine jade. It was the first choice for forging king-rank divine weapons and could grow into a saint-rank divine weapon. He caught the spear bare-handedly. His golden palm slammed into the spear, causing a string of sparks to fly out. Each of the sparks was like a shooting star, capable of collapsing the void and falling into the sea. The 9-headed flood dragon king coldly laughed. The 9 dragons' blood-drill divine spear in his hand trembled as though it had come to life. The crystalline tip of the spear radiated a terrifying ripple that was even sharper than sabers. Bang! The spear slammed into Yi Fan's golden finger, causing it to tremble slightly. But this wasn't the end yet. The 9 dragons began to glow, letting out dragon roars as 9 levels of divine might gushed forth. Tao energy stacking. 9 different types of energy gushed forth, each stronger than the last. When the 9 Tao merged into one, it pierced through 6 sect leaders at the same time. Fresh blood dyed the spear red, incomparably bloody. The 9-headed flood dragon was a second-level immortal foundation expert who stood on the 9th minor step and came into contact with the 7 forbidden domain. He was known as the #1 expert of the Northern Sea. His spear strike caused ghosts to wail and gods to howl. Between the heavens and earth, a sinister wind howled as yellow clouds and blood rained. In this terrifying scene, the scarlet spear transformed into an eternal beam of blood light. At this point, Yi Fan couldn't hold back any longer. He transformed into a golden taiji circle, with the moon in his left hand and the sun in his right, the yin and yang divine points flying out. In the void, a dazzling light burst forth. This was the collision of extreme yin and extreme yang. There was a divine light that returned to primal chaos shining. Clang! The dragon spear that condensed the 9-headed flood dragon king's power was shaken until it bounced up high, releasing a mournful wail. The 9 dragons all began to go into hibernation. The radiance immediately dimmed. In ancient times, the blood diamond divine spear was refined after the souls of the 9 flood dragons were infused into it. It possessed the power of the ancient dragons, and in addition to the 9-headed flood dragon king's extraordinary talent, it had the strength to uproot mountains, and there was nothing it could not destroy. However, right now, he was suppressed, losing his past brilliance, unable to resist. At the same time, Yi Fan's golden Tai Chi circle released a terrifying domain power. It was a swamp of flowing yin-yang saint energy. The 9-headed flood dragon's expression changed. He couldn't move at all. It was the domain power released by the golden circle that trapped him within. This was an extremely terrifying result. Everyone in the world knew that the flesh of the divine body was unmatched. Within this type of specific range, who could be his opponent? It could be said that this was the divine domain that belonged solely to Yi Fan. After being locked in this divine domain, Yi Fan was an almost unrivaled existence. He could kill all enemies bare-handedly, and it was useless no matter how high one's accomplishments were. Break for me! The 9-headed flood dragon king shouted. He was now completely anxious. Due to his carelessness, he actually fell into a hopeless situation. He struggled for his life. The golden Tai Chi circle was released, and it expanded endlessly, forming a terrifying domain. This was the first time Yi Fan displayed it, and it was one of the fruits of his 4 years of bitter cultivation. He quickly rushed over. His left and right hands respectively represented the Great Yin and Great Yang, slapping down one after another. Clang! The 9-headed flood dragon king used the divine shield in his hands to defend against this terrifying attack. However, this ancient shield was broken through without any suspense. You are already at this level. Holding the 9-dragon war spear is enough, yet you use a shield to protect yourself. You lack the courage to press forward. You fear that your unrivaled legend will be destroyed, but today, you will still be defeated. Yi Fan said. Break the law. At this moment, the 9-headed flood dragon king became anxious. Yi Fan arrived before him, and he was about to lose his chance. Below his feet, an expanse of dazzling radiance erupted. Meanwhile, blood sprayed out from his mouth, and a wave of terrifying divine force surged. Wang! The void trembled greatly. He was actually going to break through the golden Tai Chi circle, rush out of this divine domain and escape into the heavens. The nine-headed flood dragon seemed to have ignited, his entire body shining. That's the heaven ascension step. In the distance, someone said softly, as if they were extremely shocked. It was rumored that the heavenly ascension dragon stairway was dyed in blood with every step. The heaven and earth cried out in sorrow, the divine might shocking the world. It had long been lost for who knew how many years. This type of footwork technique's power was terrifying to the extreme. When the nine-headed flood dragon king took his first step, even the golden Tai Chi circle became a bit unstable, swaying back and forth. A streak of dragon-shaped divine splendor protected him. He was about to break out, but at this moment, Yi Fan didn't give him the chance. With a turn of his hand, his palm turned into a great imprint. It was precisely the heaven-overturning imprint. Pooh! It was as if a celestial emperor personally pressed down a precious imprint, engraving itself into the heavenly dome, covering the nine-headed flood dragon king. He exploded on the spot, turning into an expanse of shattered bones. A draconic cry sounded, shaking up the northern sea until it surged. The nine-headed flood dragon king reappeared. His second head was destroyed, losing his second life, but he was still trapped within the golden circle. He released a roar, coughing out large amounts of blood. He took a second step, breaking through half of his body. Before he took the third step, Yi Fan slapped down with the human emperor imprint, shattering it. Heavenly Ascension Dragon, this is a world-shocking footwork technique, able to shatter the heavens, yet it only barely broke through that golden circle. How terrifying! An unmatched expert spoke. The nine-headed flood dragon king that revived again, this time finally breaking through the Tai Chi circle domain, breaking free from the threat of the divine domain. It truly was dyed in blood with every step, heaven and earth crying out in sorrow. He paid a tremendous price, suffering serious injuries. The Heavenly Ascension Dragon was originally an exceptional offensive footwork technique, rumored to be able to traverse all worlds. However, just now, he only barely stopped the golden circle and escaped, unable to display any offensive power. He knew that he had suffered a great defeat today, unable to continue fighting. With this world-shocking footwork technique, he ascended into the sky. When he took the seventh step, he almost passed through the dimensional space, disappearing from this place. However, what made his soul tremble was that Yi Fan wasn't able to break free, almost sticking to his back, closely chasing after him. What kind of footwork technique was this, actually able to keep up with the Heavenly Ascension Dragon steps? This was what everyone was wondering. Many people stupefied. In the end, a large golden hand reached down, the divine domain formed by the golden circle appearing within the palm world, trapping the nine-headed flood dragon king within. No matter how he attacked, he still couldn't escape from Yi Fan's palm. The Heavenly Ascension Dragon's steps pierced through the air, but he still couldn't break free. Pooh! Yi Fan slowly closed his palm and clenched down forcefully. The nine-headed flood dragon king roared unwillingly, but it was powerless to reverse the situation and turned into powder. Moreover, this time, after Yi Fan closed his fingers, he continued to crush them. Each of his golden fingers was like a millstone, and even if the nine-headed flood dragon king had 9 more lives, it still wouldn't be enough because he was trapped in the divine domain. In the end, he couldn't escape from Yi Fan's palm and was crushed to death. The legend of being undefeated all his life was shattered, and his name was forever erased from this world after his first great defeat. Everyone was shocked, staring blankly at the golden hand covering the sky. The world in the palm and the appearance of the terrifying divine domain made many people feel cold all over. Everything dissipated with the wind, and the nine-headed flood dragon king could never appear again. Only a battle spear with 9 dragons coiling around it fell from the sky, sparkling like a ruby, into Yi Fan's hand. He stood there with the spear, staring at Qi and Tai Yin divine sun in the distance, and said, "It's your turn. Come at me together." In the distant sky, there was complete silence as everyone watched everything quietly. Yi Fan's combat ability was beyond imagination, and he even killed the number 1 of the rising stars of the North Sea. In front of so many people, how could Qi and Tai Yin divine sun put down their pride and fight a group battle? Regardless of whether they were kind or disgusting, powerful cultivators had their own pride and dignity. In the current world, they were all young talents who were invincible in their own regions, and they all had the belief that they were invincible so they couldn't accept defeat. That was because there were very few losers on the road to becoming a great emperor. If they were defeated again and again, their confidence would be destroyed, and they would lose the opportunity forever. Qiang stepped out. The blood feud between the Golden Crow clan and Yi Fan could not be resolved. No matter how terrifying Yi Fan was, he had to step out. If he retreated like this, he would never be able to raise his head again. Moreover, even if he wanted to escape, he would fail. He could already see that Yi Fan would chase him for thousands of miles, and no one could escape at that speed. Qi Yang stepped forward in the void and came to the sky above the sea, entering the battlefield. Everyone behind him watched quietly. He was the youngest brother of the Golden Crow clan's king, and his background was frighteningly powerful. He was the smallest giant of his clan, and he could be called a genius of his generation. Everyone was looking forward to the ultimate battle between the genius of the Golden Crow clan and the young man with the surname Yi. Walala! An ancient golden tree appeared behind Qi Yang, shaking thousands of divine lights. He did not disappoint, as he showed the ancient legendary vision of the Golden Crow clan. It was a Fusang divine tree, full of golden leaves, and there were 9 ancestral crows perched on it. Each of them looked down on the world, as if they were going to cross the ancient time and space and fly down. Seeing this scene, Yi Fan revealed a faint sneer. The sacred physique had disappeared from the Ziwei ancient star region for too long, and it had been forgotten by people. In fact, the ancient times were just a flash in the pan, and it did not intimidate the world. It was not like the Big Dipper star region, which had 9 consecutive generations, and everyone knew about it. In this world, only a person with a special physique like Granny Sky Demon would seriously pursue and understand it. You know that I have a sacred physique, but you still dare to show your vision. I'll fulfill your wish, said Yi Fan. At this moment, all kinds of light flew out from his body. The immortal king descending to the 9 heavens, the golden bitter sea, the lovely land and mountains, the yin-yang diagram, the 3-leaf green lotus, and all the other visions fused into one. It was like the creation of the world, like a world of chaos. The final vision still had not taken shape, but it could make all the visions fuse into one and appear at the same time. Even until today, the evolution had not been completed. One could imagine how terrifying this ultimate vision was. It was unpredictable. Boom! As soon as Yi Fan's vision was displayed, it caused a terrifying result. In an instant, it drowned the world and covered the sky above the North Sea. Qi Yang screamed. His heart was filled with fear. His phenomenon had been suppressed, and there was no place for him to use it. He could not move at all. As soon as the sacred physique's vision appeared, all the phenomena in the world returned to nothingness. This world had too little understanding of the sacred physique. They only knew that the sacred physique was unparalleled, but they did not know this terrifying side. Yi Fan swooped down. His eyes were like knives, and he held the blood-drill divine spear with 9 dragons coiled in his hand. He stabbed straight at the top of Qi Yang's head. A bloody light rushed up, and the red spear penetrated his head. Not only did it penetrate his body, but it also nailed his primordial spirit to death. Everyone present was stunned. Qi Yang's combat strength was so powerful, and he was thought to be even more terrifying than the 9-headed Dragon King. Yet he was killed in one blow. Everyone was petrified. The youngest brother of the invincible Golden Crow Race King, a dignified giant of a generation, had fallen just like that. This was like a legend. Above the Black Sea, Yi Fan stood alone with the spear in one hand. He lifted the corpse of the Golden Crow race's genius high into the air. It was so terrifying, and it became an everlasting scene. He was like a god. Chapter 733. The North Sea was vast and boundless. Yi Fan stood on the surface of the sea like a demon god. He held the translucent blood spear and carried the corpse of the Golden Crow tribe's genius. This scene was still engraved in people's hearts even after many years had passed. The battle blood flowed and fell into the sea. It was a bewitching red. The youngest giant of the Golden Crow tribe would forever be erased from this world. No one said anything. The entire sea was silent. The stunning spear was too shocking and intimidated everyone. The terrifying divine physique had even destroyed the Golden Crow tribe's ancient Fusang and Zhu Wu. They returned to nothingness. It was the bane of the world. After an unknown amount of time, people finally woke up. There was a clamor and everyone was discussing that Yin Tianda would definitely have an enemy after entering the continent with such power. The Taiyin godchild stood in the distance. Black mist rose and fell. He was forever shrouded in darkness like an evil spirit from hell. Escape or fight? This was a difficult choice. With Yi Fan's current power, even if the Taiyin godchild was confident in his invincibility, it would be hard to say who would win. The Taiyin godchild was an existence so powerful that it made people tremble. He was the sworn brother of Taoist Sankei of the ancient Longevity Temple and the master of the Buyering Temple. He was unfathomable. However, at this moment, he was slightly shaken. It wasn't hard to imagine how intimidating Yi Fan was at this moment. Even a character like him was a bit apprehensive. "I have no choice but to fight," he muttered to himself. There was no other choice. If he ran away like this, it would be a serious blow to his invincible belief. Moreover, he couldn't escape even if he wanted to because the speed of the divine physique was obvious to all. Even the dragon ascending heaven step was inferior. Rather than being surrounded and humiliated, it was better to fight to the death. He felt that he still had some chance of winning and could kill his opponent. The mist blew over and black clouds were rising. An extremely keen and cold aura pervaded the air. It was bone-chilling. This was the Taiyin Saint power, the most primordial power. The use of it could be traced back to the archaic era. Its performance was unpredictable. Unfortunately, after the death of the ancient emperor of Taiyin, his inheritance had changed owners. His descendants were all killed and replaced by another race that stole the scripture for their own use. With a flick of Yi Fan's hand, Qi Yang's corpse on the blood-colored spear was split into more than 10 pieces, falling into the sea like a comet. The North Sea surged violently, and huge waves struck the heavens, rushing tens of thousands of feet into the blue sky. All the clouds were scattered, and the sky was washed clean. Taiyin, son of God, snorted coldly from afar. A bone-chilling coldness filled the air and froze eternally. At this moment, the cultivators who had already fled far into the distance couldn't help but tremble. Their bodies were shaking, unable to endure this type of coldness. An incomparably terrifying scene appeared in front of them. The huge waves that soared tens of thousands of feet high and shattered the clouds had all been frozen into ice peaks. The Black North Sea was the same. It was completely frozen and turned into a black continent. Cold air assaulted everyone, making them feel as if their bones were going to crack apart. This was the Taiyin Saint power. It was extremely keen and extremely soft. It could freeze everything and turn all living things into a land of death. This was a shocking scene. Everything was frozen, as if it had been frozen at this moment, becoming an eternity. Every single spray, every single wave was magnificent and forceful, as if it was the work of the gods, carving out this type of scene. It was completely still and motionless. Bang! Suddenly, a black ice spear pierced through the air, bringing with it endless black fog. It was condensed with a massive amount of Taiyin Saint power and pierced through Yi Fan's chest. The Taiyin Son of God launched an attack and destroyed this frozen world. The Taiyin Qi was like the heavens, unbridled and mighty. Yi Fan punched out, making a sound like glass shattering. The ice spear shattered into hundreds of pieces, turning into crystals that filled the sky. Only the Taiyin Qi was not extinguished, and it continued to surge. Hum! A light sound rang out. There were black ice spears everywhere, and every inch of space was filled. It was as if tens of thousands of arrows were flying over, all of them concentrated on a single point. The space between Yi Fan's eyebrows flashed. The Taiyin Saint power flowed, and the Tao turned into millions. Endless holy light rushed out and collided with the black ice spears. A strange sound was heard in the sky. The Taiyin Saint power and the Taiyin Saint power collided, annihilating a large area of space and turning it into a ruined land. Swoosh! A large flag appeared behind the Taiyin Son of God. It was as black as ink and fluttered in the wind. It was as if he had turned the 9 underworlds into his own, and endless Yin Qi filled the air. Yi Fan's body shivered. This was a kind of cold Qi that could injure one's soul and destroy one's Tao foundation. It was incomparably terrifying. Bang! His body shook, and his divine body seemed to be burning. Golden blood Qi boiled and shot out dazzling golden light, protecting him within. The Taiyin Son of God held the cold and thick flag in his hand and shook it with all his might. Suddenly, the sky and earth darkened. Meteors flickered and struck down. This was the small world contained within the flag. It rushed into reality, and every meteor was boundlessly large. They possessed destructive power as they smashed down. Bang! Bang! Yi Fan attacked. Each of his fists destroyed a meteor with astonishing momentum. It was as if he was fighting against a part of the Taiyin ancient universe. Swoosh! The Taiyin son of God stood in the darkness. The flag suddenly pointed downwards, and the water of the North Sea thawed. Under the shaking of the flag, it all evaporated and turned into black mist. A shocking scene appeared. The flag waved, and who knew how many miles of the sea was evaporated, revealing the seabed 10,000 feet below. The black water rushed into the sky and drowned Yi Fan. Ice-bound eternity! The black mist in the sky turned into a sea again. It froze in an instant, turning into a giant black ice. It was like a black continent that occupied the sky. Yi Fan was sealed within. Boundless Taiyin holy force surged violently, and no traces of him could be seen. Behind him, people had goosebumps. The unfurling of the black flag was truly world-shaking. It contained the Taiyin holy force that could destroy all living things. Boom! Suddenly, the frozen black continent in the sky shattered. Endless blazing light shot out, and the Taiyin holy force surged violently. Yi Fan broke the seal and rushed out. At the same time, there were specks of black light in the space between his brows. The Taiyin holy force in the sky was drawn over and refined as his own. You have also learned my race's ancient scriptures. The Taiyin son of God was shocked and shook the flag. A deafening sound transmitted over. The black water in the sky fell back into the sea, filling up the 10,000 feet wide crater. The Taiyin son of God opened his mouth and spat out a black ancient bell. It was unknown what material it was made of, but it absorbed all light. The long and drawn-out sound was filled with inauspiciousness. Suppression, death, coldness, desolation, and other negative emotions erupted. This was a demonic bell that gave people a bad feeling. The king's death bell. This was a weapon refined by the previously invincible king. At this moment, it was circulating all kinds of strange negative energy that affected people's minds. At the same time, 9 legendary underworld bamboos appeared. Each of their roots seemed to be cast from black gold. They weren't that tall, and they accompanied him in front of him like a human wall. Everyone was horrified. This kind of thing could actually be cultivated. According to legend, it was born in the underworld and needed the nourishment of the Taiyin holy force in order to continuously grow and evolve into a great killing weapon that cultivators yearned for day and night. Today, 9 of them appeared at once. The most terrifying thing was that a black jade-like skull flew out and shocked everyone. The skull was sparkling and flickering with black light. There were some Tao patterns engraved on it. They densely interweaved and formed complex patterns. The 7 orifices surged with the most primordial Taiyin holy force, as if it could refine this world. The skull of an ancient saint. Everyone was shocked and couldn't believe their eyes. This was truly a priceless divine object that couldn't be bought with millions of gold. Yes, that's the descendant of the Taiyin ancient emperor. Back then, his foundation was stolen and he was also killed. He was refined into this state. That's right, there is such a legend. Although he died, his anger and resentment didn't dissipate, so he couldn't refine a holy weapon. People thought of the distant past and were all shaken. This was a weapon with a great origin. Under normal circumstances, the skull of a saint could definitely be refined into a holy weapon. However, this one was an exception. The resentment was too strong and couldn't be formed. However, it was also terrifying enough. It was only one step away from becoming a holy weapon from a royal weapon. It was far from being comparable to other weapons. The Taiyin godchild couldn't fight in close combat with Yi Fan, and he didn't dare to use his vision either. That would be no different from suicide. In this battle, he could only attack from afar and use his overflowing magic power to activate a great killing weapon to destroy the enemy. Yi Fan revealed a serious expression. The opponent's weapons were very threatening. Even he had to treat them with caution. Otherwise, he might really die with a grievance. Whoosh! In front of the Taiyin godchild, the black flag was the first to move. It flew over. The surface of the flag was like a black dome of the sky. It covered the sun, moon, and earth as if it was suppressing an ancient universe. Yi Fan's expression froze. Each of the enemy's weapons was very strange. They all contained an indescribable holy power. He lightly shouted and a simple and unadorned mountain flew out. The mystic magnet mountain was taken from Xianxia of the Golden Crow race. It was an unpolished jade. Once the mystic magnet divine ray appeared, all gold essence weapons could be destroyed. Clank! The flag trembled and the pole was broken. However, The ancient universe on the flag was not affected and continued to press down. At the same time, the sound of a bell shook the sky. The black bell waves pierced through all things. This was a king's demonic bell. It was extremely terrifying and filled the sky, covering Yifan below. Clang! A loud sound rang out. Yifan flicked his hand and shot out a shiny jewel. It was like a silver moon in the sky, shocking the four seas. This was the weapon of the Eight Visions Temple. Although it was a replica, it was still a king's divine weapon in name and in reality. The diamond chakram and the king's demonic bell collided. This was a confrontation between divine weapons of the same level. One of them was bound to be destroyed. Swish! The 9 underworld bamboos blocking in front of the Taiyin godchild all moved. They rushed over like humans and turned into 9 black shadows. It was incomparably strange. A drop of a saint's blood can kill a supreme existence. These 9 underworld bamboos have the baleful corpse energy of an ancient saint. What kind of demonic bamboo did they cultivate? In the distance, everyone was shocked. These 9 underworld bamboos were even more terrifying than they had imagined. They contained a supreme evil spirit. Yifan was also astonished. He didn't expect that these 9 underworld bamboos that he didn't pay attention to were so much more terrifying than the king's demonic bell. The 9 underworld bamboos that seemed to be cast from black gold really ran over on their own. They were demonic and peerlessly terrifying. A wisp of saints' might came from afar. Yifan opened his mouth and spat out a small golden flag. He unfolded it in the wind and it all enlarged. In an instant, the golden flag covered the sky. This was the treasured flag of the Golden Crow race that he had taken from Lu Ya's incarnation. He didn't expect these golden flags to be able to stop the 9 underworld bamboos. He only hoped that they could stall for a moment and buy him some time. Boom! At this time, the Taiyin godchild took out the most terrifying weapon of his sect. It was a jade-black skull with 7 orifices. Chapter 734. This wasn't an ordinary imperial divine weapon. It was made from the skull of an ancient saint. It was as clear as black jade and was extremely terrifying. If it wasn't for some special reason, it would have already become a legendary divine weapon. But even so, it was only one step away from the immortal divinity. In the 7 holes, the breath of a saint was gushing out and pressing down from the sky. Smoke billowed from the 7 orifices, creating a frightening scene. At this point, even though Yifan's body was extremely strong, he didn't dare to take this weapon. This was the skull of a saint and was only one step away from ascension. Anyone who dared to touch it would die. Eternal banishment. Yifan used the fighting character secret art to simulate Wang Ting's secret art and combined it with the Ji clan's Great Void technique. He forcefully opened a dimensional door and welcomed this ancient saint's skull. With a rumble, it was sucked in and completely closed. What? Exclamations came from the sky. This imperial divine weapon that everyone thought would turn the tables was dealt with just like that? Everyone held their breaths. A light bow sound rang out. It wasn't that loud, but the entire sky was blasted apart. The skull flew back, breaking through the dimensional void and returning. There was nothing that could stop it. Yifan used the line formula and disappeared from his original location. With a pong sound, the void turned into a black rift that was pierced through by the skull. At the same time, a power as if the Milky Way was falling from the 9 heavens rushed out and affected the entire North Sea. Tsunamis appeared in the boundless sea and thousands of miles of land collapsed. This was the skull of an ancient saint. Once it moved, its divine power was boundless and difficult to resist. Yifan didn't fight to the death. His eyes flashed and he wanted to execute the decapitation operation. As long as he could kill the Taiyin godchild, the threat of this skull would disappear. However, it was very difficult to do all this. He couldn't kill his way over silently. Clang! The diamond chakram was an extraordinary divine item. It collided with the ominous demonic bell and the black bell waves invaded people's primordial spirits with all kinds of negative emotions. Swoosh! The extreme Een banner was also moving, as if an ancient universe was pressing down. However, it was blocked by the profound disruption mountain, and the 2 of them were locked in a deadlock there. The battle between these divine weapons also concerned the outcome of the battle, as well as life and death. Every single one of them contained boundless killing intent. What surprised Yifan the most was that the Golden Crow clan's treasured flag wasn't destroyed. Although its divine power was absolutely suppressed by the 9 underworld bamboos, it didn't shatter in the end. Right, that is a great weapon of the Golden Crow clan in the past, but it has been defiled, its level dropping, no longer possessing its former might. Someone said with shock, recognizing the origins of the 81 great golden banners. Boom! The pitch-black skull attacked again. Yi Fan didn't try to defend against it. Every time, he dodged the weapon and looked for an opportunity. Meanwhile, at this moment, the other weapons had finally decided on the victor. The profound disruption mountain was worthy of being called an unpolished jade that possessed extremely great potential to grow, and it fixed the black-colored flag in place and pierced through it. The profound disruption mountain rushed up, sweeping out light that filled the sky. If it could be refined to a high enough level, it could destroy any fine gold weapon. At this moment, it couldn't destroy the black demonic bell of kings, but it interfered with it, causing its operation to become sluggish. Even the power of the black bell waves was greatly reduced. Clang! The diamond chakram wasn't affected at all, and it turned into the size of a millstone, smashing down like a full moon. This was a great collision between king divine weapons. At that moment, the void collapsed, and hundreds and thousands of great black rifts appeared, extending out for who knew how many miles. Their collision caused this part of the world to quickly sink, as if it was approaching the end of the world. Nothing existed anymore. With a final bell chime, the black demonic bell shattered, and the walls of the bell turned into hundreds of pieces that flew in all directions. Every piece pierced through a black hole in the void, destroying everything in its path. The vast ocean below was instantly evaporated. In the end, the demonic bell of kings no longer existed. The distant ocean surged over crazily, and only then did the dried-up seabed become a vast expanse. All of this happened very quickly. A king divine weapon was destroyed, and the people in the distance were dumbfounded. They felt that the diamond chakram was too terrifying. With this weapon, they could destroy an ancient sect. Boom! On the other side, the 81 golden banners suddenly burst into flames. Even if they were made of extraordinary materials, they still couldn't stop the 9 underworld bamboos. What did you guys feel? That's the aura of a saint. Someone cried out in surprise. The 9 underworld bamboos had destroyed the golden banners in the end, and they rushed out like humans. They turned into 9 black shadows that pounced forward, each of them releasing a wisp of killing intent. That's right. They were born in the underworld, and were nourished by the baleful corpse chi of an ancient saint. Then, they infused it with the sacred power of the moon to cultivate such demonic bamboos. In the distant sky, everyone's expression changed. They hadn't thought that the lunar divine sect would dare to do this. Doing so might raise a heaven-defying monster, and it would be a great disaster for them. The 9 underworld bamboos were like withered old men. Their entire bodies shone like black crystals, and they lined up in the void at the same time. They shot out 9 beams of black light that shot down. A wisp of the might of a saint. Yi Fan's eyes turned cold. These 9 underworld bamboos were indeed heaven-defying, but fortunately, they hadn't matured yet. Otherwise, even those who had passed the 3 slashes of the immortals would be helpless. He activated the diamond chakram to meet the attacks. An abyss formed within the millstone-sized steel ring, absorbing the 9 beams of black light. Swoosh! However, the 9 underworld bamboos weren't affected. They had already given birth to evil spirits, and they had their own consciousness. They spread out and charged toward Yi Fan. They weren't much less threatening than the skull. They were tainted with the death chi of a saint. Once they hit the enemy, it would be fatal, and it would be difficult for them to survive. Boom! The black skull underwent a strange change. The ancient saint's aura became more and more intense, and a pair of eye sockets actually lit up with a terrifying light. The densely packed Tao patterns were swimming about. At this time, its divine might was many times greater than before, causing the people in the distance to cry out in surprise. It's only one step away from becoming an ancient sacred weapon. This weapon alone is enough to turn the situation around. If the young man surnamed Yi has no other way, he will most likely die here. The rays of light in the skull's eye sockets became brighter and brighter. It was extremely terrifying. This was the god's will nurtured within it. It had long since gained sentience and had awakened. It was extremely terrifying. Boom! At this moment, a fiery brilliance erupted from the skull's skull. Then, a beam of divine light suddenly shot out and pierced through the firmament. Oh no, The god inside the skull has awakened. Now, the young man surnamed Yi is powerless. Some people secretly sighed and felt sorry for Yi Fan. This divine object that was only one step away from becoming an ancient sacred weapon was absolutely invincible. In the distance, the Taiyin divine child's face was pale. He was very weak because he had used up a great deal of his primordial spirit, but it was all worth it. As long as he could use the ancient saint's skull with ease, he was completely confident that he could kill Yi Fan. Nothing could stop him. At this moment, the situation was extremely critical. The ancient saint's skull pressed down, and the 9 underworld bamboos also swooped down like humans. They all had the aura of a saint. At this moment, the situation was extremely critical. The ancient saint's skull pressed down, and the 9 underworld bamboos also swooped down like humans. They all had the aura of a saint. In addition, the golden sacred domain also appeared. It became an eternal sacred light that protected him within. This was his domain of invincibility. That is, people were shocked to find that the divine physique's phenomenon was truly too powerful. After going against the saint's skull, the speed of its descent was greatly reduced. What a terrifying phenomenon! It dared to contend against the might of a saint. If it was someone else who used a phenomenon to block it, they would have long since been turned into fine powder. It's useless. How long can you stop the skull for? 5 breaths at most, and your name will forever be erased from this world. The Taiyin divine child said coldly. At this moment, he had enough reason to believe that he had become the victor. The divine physique would inevitably be defeated without any hope of survival. Your primordial spirit is almost exhausted. I only need 1 breath. Yi Fan said in a deep voice. Bas. At this moment, he used the army secret art and disturbed the skull, causing it to shake violently. What? The Taiyin divine child was terrified. Yi Fan didn't use the army secret art in the battle just now. He was waiting for the best opportunity to attack at the critical moment. At this moment, his body had condensed into the golden Tai Chi. It was incomparably dazzling and illuminated the sky. Then, it quickly evolved with endless profundities. Chi! A beam of eternal light flew out from between his eyebrows. A small golden person, identical to him, holding a small cauldron, attacked the Taiyin divine child at a speed faster than lightning. Wuxia gave birth to Tai Chi. It was the beginning of the world and everything was born. It was the Tao. Yi Fan had used his body to evolve the Tai Chi and had comprehended the Tao for many years. He had reversed the transformation and returned to the extreme, producing the Wuxia transformation. His body became the golden Tai Chi. It had all kinds of mysterious changes. His primordial spirit rushed out with the cauldron and reversed the Wuxia. It could be called a divine transformation. At this moment, time and space froze. Everything was still. Everything in the world was like a scroll, motionless. What was eternity and what was an instant? It was impossible to distinguish. The world was silent, and only the primordial spirit flew with the cauldron. At this moment, that small golden person lit up the entire North Sea. It cut through the past, present, and future. In his arms, the myriad chi cauldron was only 1 inch tall, but it seemed to be able to crush the world. It poured down 10,000 strands of myriad chi. It was the embodiment of the Tao. The primordial spirit fused with the Tao. Yi Fan had comprehended the Tao for more than 4 years in the Ocean Eye, the place where the ancient emperors banished the sinners. This was one of his greatest Tao fruits. It was the first time he used it. This was a brilliant eternal light. It would forever be imprinted in people's hearts. No matter how many years passed, it would still be unforgettable. The small golden person carried the 1-inch myriad chi cauldron. It flew down and imprinted itself on the Taiyin divine child's head. It was as if a deity had descended into the world. Endless light and endless brilliance turned into a boundless Tao. Under this one strike, it seemed as if it could turn the world into nothingness. The primordial spirit merged with the cauldron and shot out an immortal divine light. It shone on all things and illuminated the 4 seas. He became the only one in the world. Pop! A soft sound was like the first sound of the Tao when the world was created. The Taiyin divine child was turned into ashes and scattered with the wind, no longer existing. Chapter 735. The world was quiet and everything was like a painting. It became an eternal scene. Everything was motionless as if time had stopped. Only the golden man hugging the cauldron was moving. He lit up the sky and became the only thing in this world, shooting out immortal divine light. Taiyin Godchild was like a castle made of sand. It quickly collapsed and disappeared as if it had never been there. Yi Fan's golden primordial spirit was only 3 inches tall. Golden light flowed around it like an immortal spirit that was hugging the cauldron with a solemn look. After killing Taiyin Godchild with one strike, he turned into a beam of light and flew back. He then stepped into Yi Fan's forehead and sat on the divine platform with a small cauldron in his arms. At this moment, strands of divinity flowed out from the space between Yi Fan's brows and hung down, making him look bright and dignified like a deity standing there. His entire body was glowing. Every inch of his flesh was crystal clear and all his pores were relaxed. Essence Qi with the nature of the Tao circulated like a 7-colored glass lamp. At this moment, Yi Fan's primordial spirit entered his body and released immortal light. Everyone woke up from the eternal stillness. Was it an illusion or a misconception? This was everyone's question. Just now, the world seemed to have stopped. Only the primordial spirit and the cauldron were moving. Otherwise, why would Taiyin Godchild's head be destroyed and his name removed from the world before he could even resist? The primordial spirit turned into a beam of light and killed Taiyin Godchild with the cauldron. Everything happened so fast that it surpassed everyone's imagination. The North Sea was dead silent. Everyone felt a wave of lingering fear. Even the living fossil-level figures felt a wave of coldness. This Yi Fan was just too terrifying. Who could contend against him? What kind of technique was that? This was the question in everyone's mind. That blazing divine light not only destroyed Taiyin Divine Prince, but it also made everyone shiver in fear. Buzz! In the sky, the skull of the ancient saint descended and pressed down on Yi Fan's body. His 7 orifices were making buzzing sounds and light shot up to the sky. Those were wisps of the ancient saint's aura. It was an unstoppable force that was crushing the void. Whoosh! Yi Fan retracted his manifestation and used the Ro incantation. His purple robes fluttered in the wind, making him look like a celestial being. He flew tens of thousands of feet away, dodging the attack. At the same time, he activated the army secret character without any distractions. A strange fluctuation appeared between heaven and earth, cutting off some kind of heaven and earth trajectory. Boom! The skull that was as black as the abyss trembled violently. It broke away from some kind of mysterious trajectory and deviated from its original path. The 7 holes slowly dimmed. Yi Fan carried out the decapitation operation and killed the son of Taiyin first. Without the support of the divine power, the primordial spirit could no longer connect with the skull. Thus, the son of Taiyin's revival was cut off. At this moment, Yi Fan interfered with it with the army formula, causing it to fall off the path of the Great Path. Its power suddenly decreased, and it was about to fall into a deep slumber. After all, this was only the skull of a saint. Countless years had passed, and its essence had long been exhausted. It was impossible for it to truly possess the power of a saint in the past. It only had his invincible aura. Although it was engraved with supreme Tao patterns and could recreate the power of a saint as long as it evolved into a divine weapon, it was still one step away. It was just one step. If he could take it, he could recreate the invincible divine power of an ancient saint. If he couldn't, although it was better than other Emperor divine weapons, there would still be traces that could be found and could be disintegrated. The skull dimmed, and its 7 orifices no longer surged with divine power. Without the control of the son of Taiyin, it started to sink without any divine power. The god inside it fell into a deep slumber. Clang! Yi Fan activated the army secret character. The skull turned into a jet of black light and disappeared into his sleeve. He held it in his palm and it became his trophy. At this moment, the North Sea was shaken. Everyone was almost suffocating. Many people's eyes were burning with passion, but no one dared to rush over. This was the skull of a saint, and it was definitely made of the best material. It was only one step away from evolving into a divine weapon. Whoever could refine it and make it evolve would be able to become one with the weapon and unleash its greatest power. This was a great opportunity. Many people wanted to snatch it, but they were intimidated by the might of Yi Fan just now. No one dared to make a move, let alone take a step forward. This skull glowed with black light. It was as translucent as black jade. In Yi Fan's palm, it exuded a dreamy brilliance, flowing with an ink gold color. The patterns on it were extremely complicated. Yi Fan observed carefully, but he also discovered that there was a large number of restrictions. They were all created by the lunar sect. If he wanted to erase them and take it for himself, it would probably be difficult. Now wasn't the time to refine this skull of a saint. With a flash of black light, he calmly put it away and disappeared from his palm. Dang! In the sky, the shiny diamond chakram turned into the size of a millstone under Yi Fan's army secret character. The divine power of an emperor shocked the world like a silver moon in the sky. It traversed the North Sea, drawing out a brilliant silver light and attacking the 9 strange underworld bamboos. It released a terrifying wave, and the whole North Sea was boiling. The 9 underworld bamboos had indeed become demons. Though they were all bamboo and not human, they released a shrill cry and fled into the North Sea. Moreover, each of them was covered in a black mist. The pressure of a saint spread out, crushing all obstructions. As expected, they were heaven-defying demons. What had the lunar sect raised? If they weren't eradicated as soon as possible, they would definitely become a great threat in the future. This was what everyone knew in shock. The corpse chi fed to a saint, supplemented by the nourishment of the lunar saintly power, and planted in the underworld. This was truly a demonic bamboo. Pang! The diamond chakram struck the underworld bamboos, but failed to destroy them. The corpse chi of a saint soared into the sky. It was incredibly terrifying, and almost stained the treasure chakram. In the distance, everyone was shocked. These 9 underworld bamboos were heaven-defying. This diamond chakram was enough to shatter other king divine tools because it was too extraordinary, but it was unable to do anything at this moment. Yi Fan was also very shocked. He decisively used that skull. Instantly, black light filled the sky, and the water of the North Sea almost evaporated. Rumbling saintly might descended from the sky. This skull cleanly dissolved all the corpse chi left behind by the saint. The diamond chakram was like a silver moon in the sky, striking down. Instantly, tens of thousands of waves surged. The 9 underworld bamboos screamed mournfully. All of them were broken, turning into 9 pools of blood that scattered into the sea. Luckily, they haven't matured yet. Otherwise, these 9 underworld bamboos would truly be heaven-defying. If they aren't destroyed, they would definitely become a great threat in the future. Many people involuntarily heaved a sigh of relief. Ding ding dong dong. In the distant sky, a peerless beauty was playing the zither. The melodious music was like a torrent of water, and the sparkling brilliance illuminated the sky. It was like a poetic mood, like a refreshing aura of ice and snow, rippling through this beautiful music. The number 2 beauty of the current era, Princess Yuexia of the Ziwei Divine Dynasty, plucked her 10 jade-like fingers, producing a melodious melody that moved the heartstrings of people. It was like 10,000 flowers blooming. Before this, she had said that she wanted to watch the battle and play the zither for the young heroes. Now that the battle had ended, the song had also ended. The zither music vanished. The 3 heavens chosen had died. Blood dyed the vast sky red as the curtains fell. Only Yi Fan was left standing alone, becoming the sole victor. After a short period of silence, the entire lake boiled and clamor soared into the sky. The influence of this battle was extremely great. 3 characters of the divine sun level. Each of them were peerless geniuses who ruled over a region. They had fallen just like that, becoming the stepping stones for the youth surnamed Yi to enter the supreme Tao. The 9-headed flood dragon king, Qiang, and Taiyin godchild. Which one of them wasn't a peerless character who stood at the top of their respective regions? They were all extremely talented and brave. But today, they were all killed by the same person. Yi Fan's battle result could be considered extremely glorious. How many years had it been since something like this had happened? To kill 3 geniuses who had the ambition to become the great emperor in a single day was enough to shock the world. It could be imagined that in a few days, when the news spread to the mainland, it would inevitably cause a huge earthquake and shock the whole world. The abode of esteemed Xianxia was extremely lively. People had already returned. Yi Fan was surrounded by many cultivators like the moon surrounded by stars. After this battle, people had a premonition that an emperor star would rise. Yin Tianda would have an enemy in the world. Taoist San Ke most likely couldn't transcend the mortal world anymore. Luya would also have to break out of his death training to fight against this terrifying enemy of the Golden Crow clan. Brother Yi, you really have the talent of the heavens. In a single day, you killed 3 enemies that pressured the younger generation to the point that they couldn't even breathe. You really shocked us. The younger generation complimented and praised. The youth is invincible. The road ahead is broad. His future achievements are limitless. The great Tao is within reach. Many of the elders also spoke. Although esteemed Xuangui's birthday banquet was over, the place was even more lively. People in front of the white jade table raised their cups and drank the celestial wine. Many major forces tried to rope in Yi Fan. After this battle, Yi Fan's value could be said to have skyrocketed. Many people had a premonition that the rise of this youth was already unstoppable. Brother Yi, in a while, come with me to the North Sea Dragon Palace. My ancestor has a lot of treasures there. You must ask him to give you a suitable imperial divine weapon, the Black Dragon King said. Everyone was surprised. The Black Dragon ancestor was an old flood dragon that had lived for 3,700 years. His cultivation was so high that it was scary. Next to him, a beautiful woman walked over, swaying gracefully. Some people recognized that she came from an immortal sect in the North Sea, Sea God Island. She smiled and said, Brother Ye's combat power is really amazing. Since you are in the North Sea, you must come to my Sea God Island. Esteemed Xianxia, like the Black Dragon ancestor, was one of the most powerful ancient demons in the North Sea. His abode was naturally one of the top forces. One of his disciples also invited Yi Fan to live there. This battle had a great impact. Many people openly complimented and tried to rope in Yi Fan. Surrounded by people, Yi Fan couldn't move. Because the large sects on the continent were in the same region as the Golden Crow tribe and the Moon sect, it was not good for them to rope in too obviously. However, they also hinted or secretly tried to win over Yi Fan. Naturally, there were also large forces and experts who had a good relationship with the Moon sect and the Golden Crow tribe. They sighed and mourned silently. Not long ago, I saw the 9-dragon Flood Dragon King in the North Sea. He beat up all the lords and lords, but now, alas! The divine son of the Moon sect could be called a proud son of heaven. A few days ago, he suppressed a large sect by himself. No one dared to fight him. Now, he was buried in the sea. These 3 geniuses were heroic and had few rivals in the world. They were in their prime, but they died together. This showed people the bloody horror and ruthlessness of the Emperor's Road. This made people sigh. The fall of geniuses and the defeat of the outstanding geniuses all contributed to the rise of a young man with the surname Yi. He advanced by stepping on the corpses of many kings. This was a blood-stained Emperor's Road. Along the way, blood and bones could be seen everywhere. At this moment, even the Human King Hall, Guanghan Palace, Longevity Temple, Ziwei God Dynasty, and other immortal legacies had secretly extended an olive branch to Yi Fan. From this, one could see how great the impact and effect of this battle was. Is this child the descendant of the human race's sacred sovereign? He is so young but already full of divine splendor. As expected of a descendant of the human sovereign's bloodline, Princess Yueshur of the Ziwei Divine Dynasty walked over. She had a head of black hair that was as shiny as silk. Her skin was snow-white and translucent. She had a pair of phoenix eyes that were overflowing with spiritual qi. They were slightly slanted and contained boundless beauty and charm. Chapter 736. Tong Tong was very quiet, looking like he was carved out of jade. His large eyes were clear, and they blinked. He didn't like to talk much. His body was filled with divine yang energy, and his flesh was clear and radiant. As expected of a child with the blood of a saint emperor. The others also complimented. Using this child as a breakthrough point was also a good choice. Princess Yueshur had a divine phoenix hairpin in her black hair, and numerous sea god pearls dangled down. Her figure was graceful, and with every step she took, she could mesmerize all living things. Every inch of her skin was shining, and she was very beautiful. As the second most beautiful woman in the world, she naturally had countless pursuers. Her phoenix eyes were full of spirit, and every frown and smile could make the sun and moon dim. She squatted down, touched Tong Tong's head, and gently said, "Will you go to the Ziwei Divine Dynasty with me?" Everyone was shocked. She was clearly trying to rope in Yi Fan. Wasn't she afraid that the Golden Crow tribe and Lunar sect would be dissatisfied? Among the immortal inheritances on the continent, the Ziwei Divine Dynasty was the first to openly rope in Yi Fan. The others were just extending olive branches in the dark. "I won't go. I want to be with Master." The 5-year-old child shook his head, and his large eyes that were like black gemstones glanced at Yi Fan. "Congratulations, Brother Yi, for accepting a good disciple," Princess Yushur said. Her smile was like a crystal flower blooming, crystal and dazzling. Yi Fan was startled. This child had mentioned wanting to take him as his master, but he didn't agree. He didn't expect the little guy to bring it up again. "I'm Master's eldest disciple. 20 years later, all of Master's current enemies will be defeated by me." The tender voice of a child sounded in a steamed black turtle's cave, and everyone present was stunned. In the past, there was a peerless prodigy who once said, "Now that you are my enemy 20 years later, you can only compete with my disciple." Later it was just as he said. His skills were so great that only a single disciple was enough to intimidate the world, and it became a kind of legend. The child doesn't know anything. He's just talking nonsense. Yi Fan smiled and rubbed the little guy's head, messing up his shiny black hair. Despite his explanation, it still left an impression in everyone's hearts. They looked deeply at him and then at Tong. The people from the Human King Hall secretly invited Yi Fan to be the external protector of the sect. This was indeed a special honor, and it was already not bad to have one in 1,000 years. The Sea God's Island is an island left behind by a deity in the North Sea. "Brother Yi, you really should make a trip there." The woman from the Sea God's Island invited him warmly. "If fellow Taoist Yi is free, you can come to my Wuxia palace as a guest." An old sect master sincerely invited her. Yi Fan displayed great battle prowess and terrifying potential, shocking many people, and they all invited and tried to rope him in. Ding ding dong dong. Princess Yuesha stroked her zither, and the sound was like a clear spring knocking on a stone. It was like the moonlight accompanied by celestial music. It gave people a hazy feeling of beauty and otherworldly beauty. She held a silver cup in her hand and toasted Yi Fan with wine. She invited him again. "All right, if I return to the continent, I will make a trip to the Ziwei Divine Dynasty," Yi Fan replied. "It's a promise." Princess Yuesha smiled sweetly, causing the cave dwelling to become much more vibrant. This banquet lasted for a very long time before the people gradually dispersed. During this process, the news had already spread out, shaking the North Sea. The cultivators of the Boundless Sea region were all shocked. Several days later, the various sects on the continent also received the news, causing a huge commotion. Everyone was shocked. The commotion caused by Yi Fan grew more and more intense, truly causing the world to be shaken. The 3 people who died this time were all heaven's chosen. The 9-headed flood dragon king rose up in Wuxia and was the #1 unrivaled expert of the younger generation of the North Sea. He had never been defeated in his life, but the moment he met Yi Fan, not only was his undefeated legend shattered, he even died. Qi Yang, the youngest hegemon of the Golden Crow race, the younger brother of the king of the race. His strength was unfathomable, yet he was killed by a single strike from Yi Fan. His blood dyed the North Sea red. This was a legend. The godchild of Taiyin, a heaven-defying genius who dominated the continent, a living fossil that intimidated everyone. It was unknown how many heroes he had killed, but he still died in defeat. Is this really the work of one person? Killing 3 supreme geniuses in a single day, this is truly unheard of. Each one of them was an unrivaled genius of their region, yet they all died just like that. The path of the great emperor is truly forged from blood and bones. Yi Fan's performance was at the level of a dream, causing the people on the continent to be shocked. During this period of time the topics were all about him. This person named Yi Fan has been in the North Sea recently and hasn't even stepped onto the continent. Yet, he has already stirred up such a storm. If he returns, what kind of storm would he cause? Someone asked. If he appears, he will surely become the focal point of the world. There will surely be a world-shaking battle. At this time, Yi Fan was exploring the sea and wasn't in a hurry to leave. He accepted the invitation of some major powers and went to their islands. He wanted to further understand this world and ask people if the 5-colored altar had ever appeared in the Ziwei ancient starfield because he wanted to go back. I've more or less heard about it. There are some incomplete records in some ancient texts, but they have long disappeared. This was the response of some old sect masters. According to them, those things had existed since the archaic era, but they had either disappeared or been destroyed. They had long since disappeared. Yi Fan couldn't help but be shocked. Just how powerful was the Ziwei ancient starfield before the archaic era? It seemed like there weren't just one or two five-colored altars. There might be many. As expected of the legendary ancient Emperor Star. In the distant past, this place must have been extremely prosperous and had a glorious and incomparable period of time. But now, there wasn't even a single ancient emperor weapon left. It had been taken away by the great human emperor, along with the immortal medicine. It is said that there is a Kuan Peng that has been sleeping since ancient times in the North Sea. It is an ancient saint. There might be a five-colored altar there. Don't harm people. That place can't be found at all. Even if you find the nest of the Kuan Peng, you will die if you go in. Back then, there was a 4,000-year-old divine king. He didn't even make a sound before he was crushed. After hearing this, Yi Fan sighed. There was no need to consider that place at all. Even if he found it, he would just be throwing his life away. Half a month later, Yi Fan used the ancient teleportation runes left on some deserted islands to successfully return to land. However, this time, he didn't go to the northern Lu continent. Instead, he went to the eastern divine continent. He heard that there were many ancient ruins in this continent, so he wanted to find the five-colored altar. Do you guys think that Yi person will return to land? Are his battle achievements real? Why do I feel that it's too surreal? Taiyin Godchild once suppressed the 10 sects of the eastern continent alone. Everyone was silent and no one dared to come out to fight, but he was killed just like that. It's absolutely true. None of his battle achievements are fake. Just wait and see. Once he returns, there will definitely be a world-shocking storm. Now, the Golden Crow race is almost going crazy. The northern Lu continent is almost scorched by them. The entire race wants to kill the youth surnamed Yi. This was a prosperous restaurant. Yi Fan chose a window seat on the second floor and listened to the discussions of some cultivators. Did the exchange of the half-page of the immortal scripture from the ancient longevity temple and the human king hall succeed? During these years, they were all afraid of each other. They exchanged scriptures several times, but each time, nothing came of it. They were afraid of being bullied by the other party. Yi Fan listened quietly. He discovered that many things that could shake the four seas had happened on land in these 4 years. The 3,700-year-old king of the human king hall passed away in meditation. His achievements in his lifetime were heaven-defying. Now that he had reached the end of his life, many great sects heaved a sigh of relief. Yin Tianda had been in a life-and-death seclusion for 10 years. After he came out, he was unfathomable. He followed the footsteps left behind by the original owner of the 8 Visions Palace, riding on a green ox as he headed west. There were people who saw violet chi rising from the east, covering a distance of 8,000 miles. A heaven chosen of a generation, Mahamayuri, tried to break through to the 3rd layer of immortal foundation but ultimately failed. He was incinerated into ashes, his body and Tao vanishing. Yi Qinggu was so beautiful that all the females in the ancient star region paled in comparison. She broke through to the 8th boundary and ascended to the 9th minor step of the 2nd layer of immortal foundation. Her skin was like ice and her bones were like jade, pure and flawless. She was worshipped as a goddess. Luya had been in seclusion for 4 years. When he came out, 9 great golden crow avatars appeared behind him, shocking the world. In the Ziwei divine dynasty, the supreme imperial preceptor Tianji passed away in meditation. Before he passed away, he used his entire life's worth of Tao energy to perform a divination. He learned that the dynasty would definitely prosper and in the future, a divine infant would descend from the heavens, becoming a divine lord. During these 4 years, the tides rose and fell. Too many things have happened, just like the boundless ocean, unpredictable and unpredictable. Yi Fan sighed. After enjoying his meal, he pulled little Tong Tong downstairs. That person. A cultivator stared at Yi Fan's back with suspicion. He then glanced at the 5-year-old child that Yi Fan was holding. The 5-year-old child's flesh and blood caused a look of shock to appear on his face. Could it be that he has returned? Tap, tap, tap. He hurriedly ran down the stairs in pursuit. However, the person on the street had long disappeared. When the others saw this, they all had looks of shock on their faces as they followed after him. Brother Qi, what's wrong? You just came back from the sea not long ago. Could it be that you met an old friend or a supreme expert like Taoist Sankei? If I'm not wrong, that person from the North Sea has returned. This continent will definitely be in chaos. The cultivator surnamed Qi had a heavy expression on his face. On this day, an explosive piece of news spread across the eastern divine continent. The person who had escaped from the eye of the North Sea had returned. This rumor shook the world. It was even more shocking than Yin Tianda's westward journey on a bull. Countless people were waiting for Yi Fan's return. He shot the golden crow with his bow and killed 5 golden crow princes in one day. More than 100 golden crow experts were slain as his blood dyed the North Sea red. After that, he killed 3 geniuses in a row and destroyed their invincible halos, shocking the world. And now, this person had actually returned and appeared on land. How could people not pay attention? All the cultivators in the world focused their attention on the eastern divine continent. Lu Ye was furious. He flew out of the golden crow winged hoe with the 9 golden crow ancestors on his back. He roared at the sky and crossed the eastern divine continent. Not only did he return to this world alive from the eye of the sea, but he also has such a shocking battle record. Goddess Yi Qinggu muttered to herself. Now, she was the embodiment of beauty and holiness. Many cultivators were willing to bow at her feet. The moment Yi Fan appeared, he caused a storm in the world. Everyone on the continent was paying attention. Chapter 737. In the Big Dipper starfield, in a desolate land, a tall and sturdy man was covered in blood and his hair was disheveled. He was running with a strange movement technique. Behind him, a hazy silhouette flickered like a god, disappearing for a moment and then reappearing in the next, chasing after him. Demon Sovereign 9 slashes. Dao transformation. In front of him, the tall and sturdy man shouted. 2 dragon-shaped beams of light shot out from his eyes and slashed towards the hazy, godlike man. The Azure Thearka's lost divine art is indeed overwhelming. Although you are comparable to a holy lord, it's a pity that you met me. You are still a level lower. The man behind him pointed out with a finger, and a wave of divine light covered the entire great desolate. I've been here for so many years and haven't been killed by you. I don't believe that I will fall here today. Pangbo shouted. He had thick eyebrows and big eyes, and was very tall and sturdy. At this moment, his body was covered in blood. The demon Sovereign 9 slashes immediately pierced through the desolate land and engaged in a fierce battle with that person. In the northern region, in a primitive mountain range, not even a blade of grass grew. The monkey's fiery eyes shot 2 beams of light into the sky. There were many cracks on his body. The black gold rod in his hand was stained with blood, some from his enemies, and some from himself. Behind him, the barbarian was covered in wounds. He held the wolf fang rod upside down and carried Li Heishui on his back. Half of his body was almost rotten and he was coughing up blood. Sacred Prince, don't make a mistake. On the other side, someone sneered. Attacking me? Very well, very well. I want to see how strong you are. I will kill all of you. The monkey was incomparably angry. There were many wounds on his body, and his golden hair was stained with blood. Sacred Prince, you should know that there is an even more illustrious and noble divine son of the heavenly emperor. He is like the sun in the sky. If you make such a choice, it will not be good for you. The person chasing him was very cold. Oh, the descendant of the undying heavenly emperor is also going to attack? The monkey's eyes flashed. The person in front had a cold smile on his face. He did not speak, but his eyes were full of vicissitudes. It was as if there was the passage of time, the collapse of mountains and rivers, and the flow of the chi of a peerless expert. If I had known it would be like this, I would have smashed the egg when I cut it out of the stone in the Jade Lake. I shouldn't have given it to the primordial king, that ungrateful bastard. Li Heishui, who was dying, said with difficulty. You've blasphemed the ancient race's divine son of the heavenly sovereign. Be careful not to let others hear you. They'll lock you into eternal purgatory. The pursuers sneered. Suppress your mom. I won't be able to live for much longer anyway. If you have the guts, suppress me. Let me live for 10,000 years and suffer the torment of hell. Li Heishui shouted. That's true. He was hit by the divine art created by the great ancient emperor. Even if that holy physique Yi Fan came back, he would die without a doubt. Unfortunately, he can never appear in this world again. It's really a pity not to be able to kill him. Buzz! The black gold cudgel crushed the void, and the monkey's golden fur shot out endless divine light. He shouted, Stop talking nonsense. If you can't do it, I'll smash all of you to death today. In the southern region of the eastern wasteland, On a towering jade platform in the Ji family, bright moonlight shone down. A purple-clothed girl looked up at the starry sky in a daze. Not long later, a man covered in blood and with a halo around his head walked up the jade platform. He was exhausted and had many terrifying wounds on his body. I was too late. I only saw some blood and bones. I fought with some people. I hope they're fine. Could it be that they disappeared from the world after dying in battle like that dog? Where did little Nan Nan go all these years? The girl was enveloped by the cold moonlight. She was pure and otherworldly like a goddess in the moon palace. It was Jianghu. I really hope that dog didn't die. With its endless divine formation, they'll be much better off. Jianghu sighed. Jianghu looked up at the starry sky and said, "Time is like water. In the blink of an eye, 12 years have passed." In the distant Ziwei galaxy, Yifan was also observing the stars. He was trying to identify where Earth was and where the Big Dipper was. Because he was on different ancient planets, the celestial phenomena he saw were different. On this quiet night, he thought of many things. He missed his family back home and everything he had experienced in the Big Dipper galaxy. He still remembered the scene when he said goodbye. Jianghu smiled and shed tears. Her words still lingered in his ears. At night, I will look up at the starry sky and the other side to bless you. I know you're there. If you also remember me, you can look up at the starry sky above you. I'm here. Looking into the distance. At that time, the girl's smile was very bright, but there were clearly tears in her eyes. Then, he thought of those old friends and his heart throbbed. Those who should be killed were mostly killed. The Yin-Yang sect master was dead, and Wang Teng was also killed by him. They should not have enemies anymore. However, Yifan felt a little uneasy. Pang Bo was the successor of the Qing the Arch and had the protection of the demons. Li Heishui and the others were the descendants of the 13 bandits. Who would be stupid enough to provoke them? Why is it that whenever I look up at the Big Dipper galaxy and think of them, I feel a little uneasy? Yifan stood on the mountain peak and was enveloped by the moonlight. His whole body glowed. He looked up at the Big Dipper galaxy and thought hard about what changes would happen. It's been 12 years. I want to return to the Big Dipper galaxy. I want to see them. I want to leave the Ziwei ancient galaxy. However, it was easier said than done to travel across the galaxy. Even the ancient saints would find it difficult to do so. Pang Bo, Li Heishui, the large black dog, the little girl, and Jianghu all appeared in front of him. Would he still be able to see them in this life? On this night, Yifan sat under a pine tree with the silver moon disk above his head. He had a nightmare. The large black dog had died in battle, Wu Zhongtian had been killed, Lu Ko had been crushed into meat paste, Pang Bo was covered in blood and was smiling at him. The monkey was fighting a bloody battle with someone. It was very tragic. The little girl had lost her way and got lost again. No! Yifan shouted and woke up with a start. As a strong cultivator at his level, it was very difficult for him to have such a dream. This made him break out in a cold sweat. Perhaps my premonition was right. They are in great trouble and are now in an extremely difficult situation. They are hovering between life and death, struggling to survive while bathed in blood. I want to go back. I must go back. He jumped to his feet. Not far away, little Tong Tong was talking in his sleep. He was lying on a pine needle and sleeping very soundly. The moonlight shone on his little face and made it look very sparkling. When the first ray of light shone in the morning, Yifan stood up and faced the morning sun. His eyes were clear. From today onwards, he would do everything he could to return. He placed little Tong Tong on his shoulder and flew into the sky. He began to visit ancient sites and look for a way back. He had left his footprints in every place with the legend of the 5-colored altar. These days, Luya had been searching for Yifan like a madman. He had almost turned the Eastern Divine Continent upside down, but no one dared to touch him. F***CK, he is the most fearsome genius of the Golden Crow tribe, and he is wielding the Blackwing flowing gold serpent. That is the weapon of a sage. Who dares to provoke him? Many cultivators were trembling in fear and retreated. The Divine Continent was in chaos. Many cultivators had come to witness this earth-shattering battle. Luya was far superior to the little powerhouse of the Golden Crow tribe, Qiyang, and far superior to the other 9 princes. This was common knowledge. Otherwise, the king of the Golden Crow tribe would not have allowed him to wield the sage weapon. One could only imagine how much he treasured Luya. However, Yi Fan did not care about all this. He was now looking for a way out. He did not take all this lightly. As long as no one came to him, he would not engage in a bloody battle. Half a month later, Yi Fan was disappointed. All the ruins and legends had become nothing. They had long been buried in the river of time. His only gain was a few fist-sized five-colored crystals in an ancient battlefield on the Divine Continent. As for the five-colored altar, there was not even a trace of it. This won't do. Looks like I can't go back if I follow this path. I have to think of another way. Suddenly, Yi Fan thought of Laozi and the Buddha. These two ancient people had also come to this ancient planet. Although their whereabouts could no longer be verified, the ancient path they took might be traceable. 8 Visions Palace. Yi Fan's eyes flashed. He had a goal. Perhaps the 8 Visions Palace of the Tai Ching Holy Realm had an ancient path left behind by Laozi. However, to find a path there, he would most likely have to fight until the earth collapsed and the sea cracked. This was because that was where Yin Tianda was in seclusion. He was deified by the people, which was enough to show how powerful and terrifying he was. I need to understand more. Yi Fan did not act rashly. Against such a figure, no one in the world dared to say that they could suppress him. Yin Tianda's power was so great that it made all cultivators tremble. He suppressed the entire land and had once discussed Dao with the king of the Golden Crow tribe. One could imagine how unfathomable he was. Early in the morning, mist lingered in the forest. Even the sun was red. It was very gentle and not dazzling. On the leaves and vines, dewdrops rolled like diamonds and pearls. They were clear and sparkling, and bursts of fresh grass and trees wafted over. Yi Fan came to the ancient human desire Dao's Dao field to find Li Tian and Yan Yishi. He wanted to learn more from them. Damn it, that bastard Yi is here. Li Tian cursed. He stood in front of an ancient cave and looked at the figure below. Yan Yishi walked out of his cave on another misty and rosy mountain peak. He was dressed in a moon-white robe and was extremely handsome. He could be said to have divine bones and jade features. His enchanting smile was enough to make young girls scream. Brother Yi, congratulations on your return. Yi, tell me, what did you do to Jianghu 4 years ago? Li Tian tilted his neck and looked unhappy. Brothers, how have you been? Yi Fan smiled. How can I be? My senior brother is still elegant, spending all day with beauties. And I'm still the same. The whole world calls me a pervert. Everyone wants to beat me up like a rat. Of course, now that the goddess furnace has been exposed, there aren't many girls my senior brother can trick. Li Tian was actually quite handsome, but his face was evil. It was obvious he wasn't a good person. Yi Fan expressed his intention. He wanted to know everything about the 8 Visions Palace and the Grand Pure Holy Realm. He told the two that he wanted to cross the starfield. Bastard Yi, oh no, brother Yi, philanthropist Yi, you've really brought up a good idea. I really agree with it. I really yearn for the Big Dipper star region. I'm excited and my heart is surging. Li Tian's eyes lit up after hearing his idea. There are so many races and I can still pick up girls from ancient times. I'll laugh even in my dreams if I go there. Of course, I'll definitely turn over a new leaf or change my appearance. I'll no longer be a perverted thief and I'll become a playboy like my senior brother. I'll become the godson of flowers that everyone admires and I'll roam freely among the races of the ancient times. Chapter 738. Little Tong tilted his head and blinked his big black eyes as he said in a serious tone, You're a scholar but uncle, you're destined to be a perverted thief. Where did this brat come from? Are you saying that I only have perverted energy in my stomach? Li Tian glanced at the little guy. Yi Fan smiled. Little kids always like to speak the truth. What do you mean by that? Li Tian's face was filled with displeasure. If you want to go with me to Big Dipper, you'd better bring the goddess cauldron. Otherwise, primordial beauties aren't just any ordinary kind of strong. One slender jade-like hand might be able to slap you to death. At that time, I guarantee you won't want to be a perverted thief but a eunuch instead. That's good too. You'll turn over a new leaf and there'll be one more good person in this world. Li Tian's handsome face immediately darkened. He was even more displeased as he glanced at Yi Fan. Don't hate it. I'm just speaking the truth. Truth my ass. I like powerful primordial beauties the most. When divine son Li Tian descends, the entire world will tremble. Li Tian said in a cocky manner. Yi Fan couldn't wait to go back with him. If he brought the goddess cauldron with him, he would be invincible below emperor weapons because it was a weapon personally refined by an ancient emperor. Is this the only remaining bloodline of the human heavenly emperor? Yan Yishi smiled like an immortal descending to the mortal world, elegant and scholarly. No matter where little Tong went, people could see his extraordinariness because his body contained a divine sun. His bones and blood were lustrous and overflowing with brilliance. He's not a bad seedling. Let me train him for a few years. He'll definitely shock the world. Li Tian had an evil expression. He rubbed Tong's head and pulled him in front of him. Tong's little face suddenly became bitter, and she pouted her little mouth in displeasure. Brat, what's with your expression? So many people are begging me to teach them a few moves. Why do you look like you've stepped on dog shit? Li Tian said. Little Tong was very careless. As soon as he finished speaking, he really stepped on his foot. This made the veins on Li Tian's forehead bulge and he almost slapped him. Damn, you did it on purpose, didn't you? I'm sorry, pervert uncle, I was careless. Tong apologized innocently. I had #yen%#yen. Yi Fan stepped forward and said, this is a descendant of the human sovereign. Don't you dare have any ideas. Be careful that the Sun Saint sovereign might jump out from the underworld and strangle you to death. He asked the two of them about the situation of the Grand Pure One Sacred Realm in detail, understood the 8 scenic palace of the Xuandu Cave in detail, and found the ancient path home. Li Tian said, no one has entered that place before. It was monopolized by Xianxia. Who would dare to go there? More than 10 years ago, he beat up all the sect masters in the world until they didn't dare to speak. Yan Yishi said, I heard that he had 2 children. One of them was killed by you along with his younger brother, while the other was out helping him purchase old herbs to refine pills. We can find him and ask him about it. If you want to enter the 8 scenic palace, now is a good time. Xianxia imitated the ancients and rode a green ox to the west to comprehend the true meaning of the Tao. Now, there is no one guarding the Grand Pure One's sacred realm, Li Tian said. Yi Fan frowned. This person was indeed terrifying. For the sake of cultivation, he could actually let go of everything. He didn't even take revenge for his younger brother's death and rode an ox to the west. Although he didn't make a move, he said that he would kill you and sacrifice you to the Tao when he returned. This made many major forces not dare to rope you in anymore. This was a powerful deterrent. With just a word, it made everyone afraid and had to seriously consider the consequences. Its power was evident. Kill me and sacrifice me to the Tao. Very good. He finally said something like that. If he indifferently rode an ox to the west, that would truly be terrifying. Now, you're in quite a bit of trouble. Luya is looking for you in the eastern divine continent with the black-winged flowing gold centipede. He's going to crush you into a bloody pulp, Yan Yishi said. Luya was a talent that only appeared once in tens of thousands of years in the Golden Crow tribe. His talent was peerless. After 4 years of seclusion, the 9 great crow patriarchs appeared behind him, shocking the world. What's your relationship with Jianghu? What happened back then? I heard she came to the divine continent too. Li Tian glanced sideways at Yi Fan and asked. Return the moon tower to her. Don't clash with her. At the crucial moment, she will stand on my side, Yi Fan said. The #1 beauty in the world, the brightest and most dazzling flower. You cow dung. Li Tian was indignant. Yi Fan was also unhappy and wanted to give him a slap. This bastard's words were really unpleasant to the ears. Jianghu was now worshipped as a goddess. She was fairy-like and beautiful, shrouded in a divine halo. She was as pure as ice and as clean as jade. No matter where she went, a large number of young elites would willingly bow at her feet. She was the embodiment of beauty and holiness. Li Tian's face was evil as he said, You're really something. The goddess that everyone worships is like a pearl that emits clouds, and her immortal skin is radiant. But she has an affair with you. Don't talk nonsense. She's a very powerful collaborator. There will be many benefits for her to become the #1 goddess in the world. In the future, she will replace Xianxia. I will fully support her. The demons plan to nurture a goddess. How can those elites who worship her endure it when they know about it? Yi Fan and the two of them discussed for a long time. Both of them had plans to go to the Big Dipper star region because of the goddess Furnace's notoriety. It had angered even the gods. The boy from the Eight Visions Temple was a demon that had transformed into gathering ancient herbs in the divine continent. Yi Fan and the others decided to capture him and interrogate him. Yan Ishi said, "And now, you have stirred up a storm in the world. Who knows how many pairs of eyes are watching you? You have to be careful. At the very least, Lu Ya with his holy weapon is a big problem." "Don't worry. Didn't you say that Yi Qinggu is also in the divine continent? I'll go see her and ask her to take care of all the messy people." Yi Fan temporarily handed little Tong over to the two brothers. The little fellow immediately cried with a bitter face, complaining that he didn't want to be a perverted thief. "What are you crying for? Uncle will teach you how to be the #1 perverted thief in the world. When you grow up, you'll be grateful to me for the rest of your life. You have to know that this is the luck of stepping on dog shit. I won't teach you even if others beg me." Unfortunately, Tong accidentally stepped on his foot again. He pouted and cried loudly, complaining that he didn't want to be a perverted thief. Li Tian's face was filled with bad luck. He raised his eyebrows and said, "Damn it, little brat, are you doing this on purpose?" Tong cried loudly and said, "Uncle, I'm sorry. I don't want to be a perverted thief. Let others step on me. I had #%yen. Damn it, this is the first time I've met such an unlikable child." Li Tian's face turned green. In the eastern part of the divine continent, there were majestic mountains and majestic rivers. There were many spiritual mountains and ancient veins. Who knew how many world-shaking past events were buried here? There were countless legends in this region regarding the great ancient emperors, the deities of the outer realms, and the human race of the ancient times. Sunset Mountain was covered in red maple trees. The 4 seasons were dyed in blood. It was said that a deity from the outer realms was killed here, and the plants here were dyed red. The color would never fade. On this day, a man and a woman appeared on the mountain. The man was dressed in blue and was spotless. He descended, looking delicate and otherworldly. The woman was shrouded in a divine halo and was breathtaking. She was suspected to be the reincarnation of the 9 Heavens fairy. Her black hair hung down, shining like a mirror. Her oval face was smooth and sparkling, whiter than white jade. Her eyes were incomparably intelligent. Her figure was slender, and every inch of her jade-like skin was overflowing with color. Her snow-white dress dragged on the ground as she walked gracefully. She was not tainted by the aura of the mortal world at all. There was a red mole between her eyebrows that emitted sparkling immortal light. It added endless divine beauty to her. She stood there, causing the heaven and earth to dim and everything to lose their luster. You were able to escape from the place where the great ancient emperors banished sinners. It's really shocking. Yi Qingwu's voice was very magnetic and unforgettable. It was very pleasant to listen to. You should be glad that I came back alive. Otherwise, even your primordial spirit would slowly wither and die. Yi Fan walked forward and caressed her silk-like hair. Waves of fragrance wafted over. Yi Qingwu was very serene. Her snow-white dress fluttered in the wind, outlining her slender and beautiful figure without a single flaw. There was a radiance on her face that made others feel ashamed of their inferiority. "Did you find me to deal with Lu Ya, the lunar god sect, or Yintianda?" She was very calm. "I like smart girls. Goddess Yi Qinggu is destined to be the #1 in this star region." Yi Fan's fingers ran through her bright and fragrant hair. Yi Qinggu was very calm and serene. She was like the clone of a goddess in the mortal world. She was unattainable, beautiful and flawless. However, at this moment, there was a trace of mockery as she said, "Are you mocking me? Everything I said is true. In the future, you will be the only one who can prove your Tao in this ancient star." Yi Fan's fingers ran through her smooth and sparkling cheeks. She finally frowned and took a step back. She was beautiful and had a kind of auspicious and sacred aura. She would not allow mortals to blaspheme her. She was as distant as a fairy from the heavens. Yi Fan smiled and said, "It's okay. I almost thought that you had already severed your Tao and your immortal heart could not be moved. Turns out you are still in the mortal world. Are you afraid?" Yi Qinggu also smiled. Her smile was incomparably moving. She bloomed with a shocking brilliance. That moment of flirtatiousness could make a stone man's heart sway. What's there to be afraid of? I'm sure those prodigies who are willing to kneel at your feet will be very envious of you. Tell me, who do you want to deal with? Yi Qingwu's hair was light and graceful. She was slender and had a shocking brilliance about her. Luya. I don't want to see him and some others. Tell them to be quiet, Yi Fan said. Easy for you to say. Luya has formed 9 ancestral crow bodies and wields the black-winged molten golden centipede. How many people in this world can kill him? Yi Fan stretched out his arm and wrapped it around her slender waist. He walked forward and said, You can use all your methods without exposing yourself. You don't have to kill him. Besides, I want to know everything about the 8 Visions Temple. Yi Qingwu gently broke free. Her hair danced in the wind and her slender body swayed. She smiled faintly and said, You are testing me. You are afraid that I will break free. Are you afraid too? I'm afraid. Yi Fan laughed loudly, wrapping his arms around that warm and soft waist. Waves of fragrance wafted over, and then he walked into the forest, saying, Even if you become a stunning female saint, I still won't fall behind, enough to suppress you. If I become a stunning saintess, do you think you can keep up with me? Yi Qingwu sneered. She exuded a shocking charm and brilliance. You can wait and see. Yi Fan wrapped his arms around her slender waist and walked forward. He said, You won't be lonely on the path of saintess. Just by looking at their backs, they seemed like a pair of Taoist companions, a perfect match. But who knew that they both had their own thoughts and schemes? Chapter 739. On sunset, Yi Qingwu's hand slammed down and a red peak was flattened. The mountain wind whistled, messing up the vines, withered the grass, and withered the leaves. It was a bleak scene of autumn. She was like a goddess with a slender waist like a snake. Her figure was slender and graceful, and her dark skin was like a mirror. At this moment, her face was flushed and her eyes were like water. She was so charming that she could captivate all living things. Every frown and smile made all the beauties in the world pale in comparison. Humph! Her clothes were whiter than snow. With a light flick of her soft sleeves, the wrinkles on her snow-white clothes were smoothed out. Her beautiful hair danced in the wind. Her sparkling white oval face and eyes that were like obsidian contained spiritual energy and a trace of anger. She flew away like a fairy. Yi Fan was extremely calm. He stepped on the messy vines, stepped over the withered leaves, ascending the broken peak step by step. There was a smile on his face as he flew into the distance. Yuan-Su was a very special place. It was filled with dense spiritual energy all year round. It was not very dense but very pure, suitable for growing all kinds of herbs. Some said that in ancient times, there was a medicinal garden here where all kinds of ancient medicine kings grew. It breathed auspicious energy and gathered all the spirits in the world. Some said that this was a medicinal field pulled out from the legendary Eastern Sea Ponlay immortal island by a deity with great magic power. That was why there was a strand of immortal energy seeping out. Some said that this was originally the residence of a deity and could gather the energy of heaven and earth. Unfortunately, it was destroyed during the ancient times and became in Yuan-Su. It was located in the center of the divine continent. Cultivators would pass by this place. In the beginning, there were people who came here to exchange spirit medicines. As time passed, it became a famous place. Now, ancient medicines, precious materials, scriptures, and all kinds of things related to cultivation were exchanged here. It was famous and even people from other continents came. Yi Fan landed. He had made an appointment with Yan Yishi and Li Tian to meet here to catch Yin Tianda's boy. Yuan-Su was rumored to have a precious ancient medicine king on display. It would be auctioned here and the highest bidder would get it. Recently, it had attracted the attention of many cultivators. The master of the 8 Visions Palace, Yin Tianda, had inherited everything from the grand pure saint realm. In recent years, he had been refining pills. Some people said that every time he opened the cauldron, there would be auspicious air surging into the sky. The pills were so precious that they could heal the dead. The elixirs he refined were extremely beneficial to cultivation. When Lu Ya and Taoist San Ke encountered bottlenecks, they both relied on his elixirs to overcome their tribulations. Therefore, he had a high demand for all kinds of medicines. In order to brew the legendary 9 Revolutions spiritual Dan, he sent out a young servant to buy them. The green bamboo was green and glistening, growing without any pattern. Strand after strand of mist seeped out from the origin ruins. There was indeed a wave of pure essence energy. There were 3 short mountains. There wasn't anything special about them, but there was a feeling of returning to simplicity. Ancient vines, small bridges, green bamboos, clear springs, everything was very peaceful. However, when he got closer, it was less peaceful because there were many people. There were cultivators everywhere. There were people setting up stalls in every corner, bridge, and pond. There were flying swords, talismans, elixirs, and Taoist books, all of which were expensive. Yi Fan was surprised. This place was indeed not ordinary. He saw a weapon on a small grass mat. It was a broken Emperor Divine weapon. The seller was a rustic old man. And on another stall, there was a sea deity pearl in a broken purple conch. The light was covered, and those who didn't understand would not notice it at all. Not far away, there was a bundle of bamboo slips on a piece of linen cloth. The opening paragraph was exposed, and it actually explained a wonderful theory. It was very profound. Yi Fan immediately stopped walking. This place was too unusual. There were some powerful hermits here. They looked inconspicuous, but the things they sold were extraordinary. However, these precious items were not easy to trade. He went up to ask for a price and learned that they could only use certain things to trade. Nothing else was acceptable. These people only wanted what they needed. They don't reveal themselves and only prepare for those who know what's good. This is the character of experts, and they are also afraid of being disturbed. Yi Fan nodded. Of course, it couldn't be that all of them were precious materials. It was just that his cultivation was strong enough to see that these people were not ordinary. There were stalls everywhere, and there were many inferior goods. It could be said that there were crooks mixed in with the honest. Yi Fan walked with his hands behind his back. He walked across the stone arch bridge, climbed the short mountain, and entered the bamboo forest. He walked around and was very surprised. There were indeed many precious materials. There were even people exchanging for perfect Emperor Divine weapons. A large number of experts had gathered, and they surrounded the place so tightly that not even a drop of water could trickle through. Other than this, what shocked him deeply was that there would be immortal treasures being auctioned. Someone had dug out a thumb-sized, 2-finger-wide phoenix blood scarlet gold from an ancient vein in the divine continent. Waves of phoenix cries rang out. There was a living fossil figure activating all the Tao energy in his body. That finger-long divine gold immediately flew out, filling the sky with scarlet multicolored light. Phoenixes flew and phoenixes danced, drowning out the entire Yuan ruins. It shocked everyone. It's definitely phoenix blood scarlet gold, the real deal. I don't know how many years it has been since I've seen such an immortal material that belongs to a great emperor. Even though it's small, it can be used to forge a supreme divine weapon. It's hard to find even with millions of gold. I wonder who it will end up in. Everyone was stunned. Just seeing this item made their trip worthwhile. This was an eye-opener for them, because this was something that only appeared in legends. They are even willing to sell such an item. Many people were speechless, gasping in admiration. Not long after, Yi Fan saw Xianxia and Li Tian. They both expressed that they had not found Yin Tianda's child. That fellow is a snake spirit. Even though he looks harmless and is only in his teens, he has already cultivated for 1800 years. If only we had the demon revealing mirror. We would most likely be able to find him very quickly, Li Tian said. Perverted uncle, let me out. My master is already here. Tong Tong cried from within a magical treasure. You unlikable little thing. First memorize the general principles of the Tao of human desires. You will thank me 18 years later. Li Tian felt that forcing a crying little thing that didn't want to be a perverted thief to learn these scriptures was quite interesting. He really wanted to take him in as a disciple. Yi Fan turned a blind eye. He felt that having more experiences when he was young would be beneficial to his future growth. Of course, the prerequisite was that he couldn't change. He felt that everything was under control now. He's here over there. Xianxia spoke. His eyes gazed forward and focused on a youth with red lips and white teeth. He wasn't tall and looked to be only 14 or 15 years old. He wore a white python robe and a pair of soaring snake boots. His black hair was bound by a violet gold crown, and he walked with his hands behind his back. This was a somewhat arrogant and conceited youth. As expected of someone from 8 Visions Temple. He's just a little child, Yet he already has the strength of a sect master. However, after thinking about it carefully, it was understandable. This was actually a snake spirit that had cultivated for many years. His cultivation was naturally extremely high, and he had only become a child after being subdued by Xianxia. Wait a moment. Don't make a move first. This snake spirit child is very rich and controls the financial power of 8 Visions Temple. It seems like he's not going to help Xianxia bid for that phoenix blood scarlet gold, right? This is a huge fat sheep. We'll slaughter him in a while. Li Tian said. White mist lingered in the origin ruins. Most of the cultivators only set up stalls and didn't have any palaces. It was like a marketplace, but there were countless treasures. The only special place was a tall platform that was piled up with white jade stones. It was located at the center of the origin ruins, and it would only be used when there were especially precious items or priceless divine objects to be auctioned. The snake spirit child walked forward with his hands behind his back. He raised his head high, and the violet gold crown flickered. He seemed to be very tempted and determined to win. Yi Fan and the others also walked up. There were people hosting the auction on the white jade platform, and soon after, the price reached a sky-high price. Someone took out 4 or 5 fist-sized divine sources and threw them like they were dirt. That's a great figure from the Human King Palace. How extravagant. This is just the beginning. Who knows how high the price will be when the transaction is completed? The Human King Palace wants to exchange divine ancient scriptures with the ancient temple. Did they succeed or not? There have been countless rumors in recent years. Yi Fan was moved. He also yearned for that single page of divine ancient scripture and wanted to know what exactly was going on. However, there were still no results even after several years. It could only be said that both sides were too careful and were afraid of being taken advantage of by the other party. The people from Sea Deity Island have come. Look, what did they take out? Heavens, dust-avoiding pearl, fire-avoiding pearl, water-avoiding pearl. A pile of sea deity pearls. Everyone sighed in admiration. This pile of pearls was too resplendent and could almost compete with the phoenix blood scarlet gold in splendor. It illuminated the heaven and earth with incomparable brilliance. Mother Fastris Kerr. These are all wealthy people. Robbing a single one of them would bring endless benefits. Li Tian cursed. After that, he stared at the great emperor holy artifact and said, "This piece of phoenix blood scarlet gold should be enough to forge a bracelet. If I offer it up as a gift, I'm afraid there wouldn't be a single female who wouldn't be moved. Even the supreme ancient immortal maiden would go soft." "Uncle Pervert, I despise you. Let me out," Tong Tong cried. "Tears packet, go and memorize." Li Tian kept the pendant, not giving Tong Tong a chance to speak. At this moment, people from the Ziwei Divine Dynasty, Moon Palace and the other major powers also made their moves. The bidding grew increasingly intense. Phoenix blood scarlet gold. It's extremely rare to see even a small grain of it. Today, I actually saw such a piece here. I definitely have to buy it and gift it to the clan king. With his creature-level magic energy, he would definitely be able to refine it into a great treasure. At this moment, several tall figures walked over. All of them had shoulder-length golden hair and their eyes gleamed with electricity. They were extremely valiant and were all experts from the Golden Crow race. They exuded boundless might as they walked over with large strides. Those who didn't participate in the bidding immediately moved to the side, not wanting to provoke them. This was because the Golden Crow race was too powerful. Not many people dared to antagonize them. Yi Fan didn't avoid them. He simply stood there, somewhat out of place. This caused the people from the Golden Crow race to frown. One of them walked up and asked, "Are you going to auction this divine artifact?" "I'm not auctioning it," Yi Fan replied. "Then move aside, we want to bid here." The Golden Crow 10th Prince had a domineering aura. After so many years, because he was the youngest, he was doted on by everyone. He had always been like this and was even sharper than his older brothers. "If you want to bid, you can do so. This place is very big. Could it be that there's no space for me to stand here?" Yi Fan replied. "Could it be that after a person surnamed Yi appeared, everyone in the world thinks that my Golden Crow race is easy to bully?" The Golden Crow 10th Prince's expression turned cold. He stretched out his hand and pushed forward with great force. It was enough to crush someone into meat paste. "This place has no owner and everyone can stand here. Yet, You say that this is bullying your golden crow race? It's obvious how arrogant and domineering you were in the past. Yi Fan raised his hand to block the attack. Little 10. Retreat! Shouted an elder of the golden crow race. He opened his heavenly eye and was incomparably shocked when he saw Yi Fan's true appearance. Bang! The golden crow 10th prince's arm suddenly deformed and then softened like a noodle. He was sent flying as if he had collided with a mountain. Who are you? He's Yi Fan, shouted the other members of the golden crow race. The first prince, second prince, and another elder all stepped forward. The origin ruins shook as everyone looked over. Yi Fan's fame was too great. Today, he had finally appeared on the continent. Are you sure that Lu Ye will appear and kill him here today? Li Tian secretly transmitted his voice. Yes, the information I received should not be wrong. Now that these people have appeared here, it couldn't be better. If there's trouble, Lu Ye will definitely rush over. At that time, he won't be able to escape even if he has wings, and we can take the black-winged golden centipede. Yi Fan replied. It must be Yi Qingwu's news. You two said that nothing happened, but now there's a person and a holy centipede. Li Tian cursed. Chapter 740. Yi Fan lightly blocked it, causing the powerful 10th prince to grimace in pain. His arm was fractured inch by inch and was severely deformed as he was flung through the air. Everyone felt their hearts trembling when they saw this scene. Seeing was believing. Which successor of the Golden Crow race wasn't an arrogant and unyielding character? Their hands were all stained with the blood of more than one sect leader. But now, the 10th prince was like a weak teenage girl encountering a barbaric man from the ancient forest when he encountered Yi Fan. There was no need to mention how pitiful he was. Even a second-level Immortal Foundation character couldn't withstand a casual block from Yi Fan. How strong was he exactly? Everyone had a strange look in their eyes. Yi Fan, you are that Yi Fan? The 10th prince's eyes and brows furrowed as two beams of light shot out from his eyes. He was on the verge of madness as he screamed, "It's you! It's actually you! You killed my 6 elder brothers and now you're on land, right in front of me. Little 10, come back quickly!" The crown prince shouted. He was an old Taoist over 50 years of age. He had thick golden hair and wore an 8-trigram robe. His eyes were filled with the vicissitudes of life and he looked like a supreme expert. The 10th prince retreated. Although he was infuriated, he also knew how terrifying this person was. Even his 6 elder brothers were defeated. There was no way he could survive if he went up. However, for the sake of dealing with Yi Fan, the Golden Crow race had long made preparations. The instant they withdrew, a rain of flowers scattered about, sparkling and translucent, releasing dazzling brilliance. It was as if countless stars were burning, divine light flourishing. Quickly flee! At this instant, many experts in the origin ruins turned pale. They retreated with extreme speed as though they were fleeing from a devil. Their expressions were extremely ugly to look at. In the air, thousands of petals danced in the air. Each petal was as translucent as a diamond, so beautiful that it would cause people to lose themselves. Dense mist rose as a divine light illuminated everything. It was as though a god was about to be born. Amethyst Emperor Flower. Yi Fan's expression froze. He recognized the flower of utmost poison. Back in the Beidou Star region, Zhao Fa, the heir of the Ziwei sect, had tried to poison him with this. It was rumored that just a strand of this flower was enough to poison a sect master-level figure to death. It was the world's greatest poison, and there was almost no medicine that could cure it. These are the purple micro-emperor divine flowers. As long as a strand of multicolored light hits you, your primordial spirit will wither. No matter how great of a hero you are, you can only die. Even if you are a peerless genius, you will never be able to prove your Tao. Yan Ishi shouted, loudly reminding everyone. The purple micro the archflower had one more word than the flower that Zhao Fa had used. However, its power was many times stronger. A single beam of light could cause one's essence spirit to wither and die. It was extremely terrifying. In this world, no one would use this kind of emperor flower, because it was too evil. The world would not tolerate it, and it would be condemned by all. Yi Fan snorted coldly. The other party was willing to do anything to deal with him, even using the most sinister and intolerable evil spirit flower. As expected, his resentment towards him had reached the extreme. He propped up a screen of light, but it was rapidly melting. Every flower that bloomed would shoot out a streak of divine multicolored light. It was astonishingly beautiful, and it could corrode all divine power. Retreat! It is difficult to find one emperor flower in a million stalks. It possesses terrifying demonic power. When its petals bloom, there will be a momentary bloom that can extinguish all life, Xianxia warned. An even more resplendent golden light shot out from within Yi Fan's flesh shell, turning into a golden sacred domain that expanded outwards. The sound of the great Tao resonated, and he stood there like an immortal god. This was the power of a domain. Even though tens of thousands of emperor flowers were blooming, all of their bloom was blocked. They could no longer advance, and then they were quickly extinguished. The so-called momentary bloom was a momentary sublimation. It could not exist in the world for long and would wither after a breath's time. Yi Fan's golden hand reached out and enveloped the 10th prince's head, pressing down like the firmament. What? He didn't retreat and blocked the momentary bloom? The golden light is not afraid of corrosion. What kind of power is that? That's his golden sacred domain. People cried out in surprise. They finally knew how terrifying the youth surnamed Yi was. He was indeed a terrifying character who had killed 5 princes of the Golden Crow race in one day and 3 geniuses including the Taiyin divine child. No, 10th. The other members of the Golden Crow race took action. They took out all kinds of magic treasures and attacked the Golden Hand, wanting to save the youngest successor of the race. But it was of no use. This Golden Hand seemed to be able to melt eternity. Nothing could stop it the moment it reached down. Many weapons shattered in front of it. Ah! The 10th prince screamed miserably as he was caught by the Golden Hand. At this moment, he did not look like an iron-blooded golden crow who could kill a sect master. His hair was disheveled and he coughed up large mouthfuls of blood. He had transformed into his true form. The body of the golden crow was extremely powerful as if it was made of divine gold. He wanted to fight his way out, so he flapped his wings and let out a cry that shook the 9 heavens. However, he only managed to resist for a moment before he was caught firmly by the Golden Hand. His body was covered in blood and his golden feathers danced in the air. It was an unbearable scene. At this moment, he did not look like a proud golden crow at all. Instead, he was like a little chick struggling on its deathbed, unable to escape from Yi Fan's palm. No, wait! Let go of the 10th. Everything can be discussed. The Crown Prince and the Elder of the Golden Crow race shouted. They wanted to stabilize their opponent and think of a way to save him. There's no need. There's nothing to discuss. Yi Fan's words were very cold. He mercilessly closed his palm and crushed it forcefully. The 10th prince's body and soul were both destroyed. Everyone was shocked. Yi Fan was even more iron-blooded than the Golden Crow race. There was no room for discussion at all. He acted decisively and killed the 10th prince. This was a sect leader-level powerhouse, yet he was squashed to death like a little chick. This was too shocking. 10th. The shouts of the Golden Crow clan's second crown prince and the Grand Elder shook the sky and traveled hundreds of miles away. They were like rolling thunder. They were calling out to Luya with endless resentment. They gave Yi Fan a death stare, and then they turned into 2 streaks of golden light, rushing into the heavens, trying to escape. You still want to escape in front of me? Yi Fan took out a huge bow and held it in his hand. He stepped forward with his left foot and his expression was cold. He pulled the bowstring with his right hand and instantly, it was like a full moon. His black hair cascaded down like a waterfall and his expression was resolute. His body and the thick bow seemed to be a part of each other. Heaven and earth origin energy crazily surged, entering the bow and his flesh shell. A powerful wave of energy surged forth like a tsunami, majestic in all directions. Yi Fan coldly loosened the bowstring. A divine rainbow that looked like it could shoot down the stars in the sky whizzed out, tens of miles long. The body of the Golden Crow race's elder exploded in the air. He was killed by a single arrow. This is an expert on the 8th minor step of the 2nd layer of Immortal Foundation. He was killed just like that. I feel the same way. My hair stands on end. This arrow is too terrifying. The spectators were all shocked. Their hair stood on end and a chill ran down their spines. They had long heard of how powerful and terrifying Yi Fan was. Now that they saw it, it was even more terrifying than the rumors. Woo! Another divine rainbow shot up into the sky, piercing through the heavens and into the heart of the second prince of the Golden Crow race. He let out a miserable scream. Pooh! Another flower of blood bloomed. The second prince of the Golden Crow race turned into a mist of blood, erased from the world. The crowd involuntarily retreated. This was simply like a god of death. Who could block such destructive power? It was as if even a god could be shot to death. In the crowd, the snake spirit boy was so scared that his face turned pale. He retreated, wanting to quietly escape. The master of the 8 Visions Palace looked down on the world and intimidated all kings. However, the person in front of him was not one of them. Because even the second master of the Grand Clear Saint realm was killed by him. Now that he saw his unparalleled might, the snake spirit boy wanted nothing more than to run as far as possible. Darling, where are you going? Li Tian appeared in front of him with an evil smile on his face. You're the #1 pervert in the world. I'm a man, the real deal, not a woman. The snake spirit boy screamed. F*CKU, what nonsense. Do I look like Lord Rabbit to you? Li Tian said with a dark expression. Yes. The snake spirit boy was so scared that he stuttered. He couldn't think straight and didn't know what he was saying. Li Tian's expression immediately darkened. He knocked him out with a slap and carried him away in his 100 treasures pouch. No one noticed. It's your turn. Yi Fan strode forward to deal with the first successor of the Golden Crow race. He was thin, tall, and had shoulder-length blonde hair. His eyes contained the orbit of the sun and moon. He was a Taoist in his 50s, and his Taoist name was Wu Gu. Among the 10 disciples of the Golden Crow race, Lu Ya was first, and he was second. At this moment, the true fire of the sun was burning fiercely. Wu Gu chanted an ancient scripture and walked toward Yi Fan with boundless killing intent. Be careful of the Golden Crow race's indiscriminate destruction. Yan Ishi reminded. Roar. At this moment, a loud roar came from the end of the boundless sky. It shook the mountain range in the distance, and 18 mountains collapsed in succession. A golden-haired man was incomparably majestic. His eyes flashed with a terrifying light like that of a wild beast. He carried a black-winged flowing gold ranseur and charged over with monstrous demonic energy. At this moment, the entire sky cracked. He was like an invincible demon god. His golden hair fluttered in the wind, and his roar collapsed the mountains and rivers as he crossed over. Big brother, I'm here. There's no need to self-destruct. Yi Fan, I'm here to kill you. Lu Ya appeared. Buzz! He swung the black-winged flowing gold ranseur and slammed down like a golden mountain ridge. In an instant, the earth cracked and the mountains and rivers collapsed. Large cracks on the ground quickly extended from 80 to 90 kilometers away. The terrifying scene shocked everyone. Many cultivators rushed into the sky and fled for their lives. They were almost scared out of their wits. It was as if an ancient saint had been resurrected. Yi Fan's body trembled as a line of blood appeared in the center of his brows. But very swiftly, a fist-sized crystalline divine furnace appeared in his palm, stabilizing everything. Lu Ya, I've been waiting for you for a long time. It's useless even if you come. Yi Fan emotionlessly spoke. His golden palm pressed towards Taoist Wu Gu, not even fearing the #1 genius of the Golden Crow race, Lu Ya. Arg! Taoist Wu Gu screamed. His golden hair fluttered in the wind. His entire body was covered in blood, and under the pressure of the golden palm, it was as though he was facing a heavenly tribulation. From afar, Lu Ya's anger was seething. He radiated a divine light that dispersed the clouds in the surroundings as he roared, "If you dare to do so, I will exterminate your entire clan in the future." Why wouldn't I dare? Today, I'm going to kill you as well. Yi Fan mercilessly slammed his palm down. The great Tao was simple, and this strike contained his undefeatable will. It was the embodiment of his Tao. Wu Gu's body crumbled inch by inch. Even someone as powerful as him, standing on the 8th minor step of the 2nd-level heavenly platform, had no way to block a full-powered strike from Yi Fan. Blood dyed the sky red. Everyone felt their bodies turning cold. This scene was like a terrifying Azura god-slaying diagram, wanting to annihilate all those who dared to defy it. Chapter 741. Yi Fan, I will kill you for 10 lifetimes, 10 lifetimes. Lu Ya howled in rage. His divine wings soared up into the sky as every pore on his body gleamed with golden light, shooting up tens of thousands of meters into the air. However, this basically couldn't change anything. Yi Fan mercilessly slammed down with his palm, causing Taoist Wu Gu to explode into pieces. It's enough for me to slay you for a single lifetime. If I destroy you for a single lifetime, all of eternity will be nothing. This was Yi Fan's reply. The powerful Taoist Wu Gu turned into a mist of blood, but the mist condensed and didn't dissipate. One of the primordial spirits of a golden crow flickered, chanting devil scriptures as it shot out Tao scars. Incinerate my devil body, incinerate my soul, fall into purgatory together. Golden Crow Death Curse. Taoist Wu Gu screamed with unwillingness, his voice filled with hatred. After experiencing the tribulation of the Yin Yang Death Curse, such a thing can no longer injure my primordial spirit. Yi Fan spoke. His body sparkled as his golden sacred domain expanded, protecting him within. He was like a divine statue, resplendent and resplendent. Numerous golden halos surrounded him, preventing the myriad of techniques from touching him. This was none other than his unique sacred domain. Yi Fan's 5 fingers were like 5 golden mountains. Each of them towered up into the sky and pressed downwards, breaking apart the aura of the death curse. Pooh! Taoist Wu Gu screamed. Ultimately, he couldn't withstand the pressure of the 5 golden fingers. His primordial spirit and the death curse were both destroyed, dying in the origin ruins. He wasn't able to inflict Tao injuries on Yi Fan like the old Yin Yang sect leader did. Wu Gu, the 8th step of the 2nd-level Heavenly Foundation realm, the #1 successor of the Golden Crow race. He was invincible and dominated an entire region. Yet he was killed just like that. The young man surnamed Yi is too terrifying. He has already killed 9 crown princes of the Golden Crow race. His bravery can be said to be unrivaled. Everyone was stunned. There wasn't a single person who wasn't trembling in their hearts. During this process, everyone was frantically retreating because Luya had arrived. With a loud roar, the mountains crumbled and the earth cracked. It was unknown how many rocks and soil flew up into the air. Luya's golden hair stood on end as he swung his wings, smashing downwards. Yi Fan wielded the crystalline divine furnace and soared up into the sky with a single step, resisting the ancient sacred might. Boom! This strike was like the collision of 2 ancient universes, emitting an aura of great destruction. The sky was deformed, as if a world in a painting had been destroyed. Clang! Luya's bravery was unstoppable. After exchanging a direct blow with Yi Fan, he swung his Golden Crow Wing Ranseur backwards as he passed by Yi Fan. The Golden Crow Wing Ranseur slashed down diagonally. It was an undying divine light. Yi Fan stepped out, his left hand holding the fist-sized translucent divine furnace, arriving high into the sky. Boom! The terrifying pressure of the ancient sacred weapon rushed out like a vast ocean beating against the shore, shaking the heavens and shaking the earth. When the black-winged flowing gold centipede slashed down, the earth was split apart. Origin ruins were crisscrossed all around. It was unknown just how many terrifying great valleys appeared. Many great mountains collapsed inside, falling into the earth abyss. Ah! Countless screams rang out. It was unknown just how many cultivators failed to escape this calamity and were all buried underground. This strike caused the Yuan ruins, a historical site that had shaken the various continents, to disappear. It became history, forever erased from the world. This was a terrifying scene. It was like the end of the world had arrived. The earth crumbled as the vast wasteland collapsed and split apart. There was no end to it. Luya was cold and emotionless. He didn't even care about the deaths of the countless people. Wielding the black-winged flowing gold centipede, he rushed over once again. The lives of the people were plunged into misery. The earth was dyed red with blood. A large number of cultivators met with calamity, and there were even 2nd-level Immortal Foundation experts who died. Luya's heart was as resolute as steel. There was only killing intent in his eyes. He didn't care about the loss of lives, the bones and blood of cultivators. He only wanted to kill Yi Fan. Yi Fan was facing off against him. This wasn't the first time they met, but this was the first time they fought with their true bodies. This battle had nothing to do with anything else, only life and death. Yi Fan, you killed 9 of my brothers. Our blood debt is as deep as the sea, too many to list. Ugh. Luya was going crazy. His 9 brothers were killed. His internal organs were almost on the verge of burning up. When a person's anger reached the extreme, White smoke would come out from his 7 apertures. Right now, he was like a furnace with smoke rising up from it. His countenance terrifying to the extreme. They deserve to die. Yi Fan only spoke these 4 words. He didn't want to say anything else. Luya also didn't say anything else. His golden eyes were dyed with blood as he swooped down with a boundless killing intent. He wanted nothing more than to kill Yi Fan with a single strike. The black-winged flowing gold centipede severed eternity, bringing with it a mountain of corpses and a sea of blood. Countless corpses resembling fiend gods descended from the sky. The terrifying scene shook the world. What is that? Fiend gods? Or could it be a divinity from the outer realms killed by the ancient sages? Those who managed to escape this calamity were all shocked. They stood far away in the horizon, their eyes wide open as they stared at this scene. From the ancient times until now, it was unknown how many people this centipede had killed. These were all the blood souls of the supreme experts it had slain in the past. Boom! The goddess furnace in Yi Fan's hands came to life. It didn't seem to be forged from copper, but rather, it seemed to be made from 5-colored glass. Its entire body glowed with a lustrous luster, shining with a treasured light. At this moment, it released waves that were tens of thousands of zhang high. This was an ocean formed from divine power. It struck out like a star domain, fighting against the centipede. This strike caused the heavens and the earth to split apart. The world was filled with light, and nothing else could be seen. As for the 2 people involved in the battle, they were also submerged. This was the might of a divine weapon, a power that could destroy everything in the world. Anyone who entered would feel as insignificant as an ant, and could only be turned into ashes. The 2 wielded divine weapons, so they were naturally protected by the furnace and the centipede. Otherwise, they wouldn't have survived. At this moment, they were as unmoving as boulders amidst the mighty divine might. Clang! Luya stood in the sun's essence fire. The centipede in his hand flew above his head and hung there, suppressing the world and the void like an eternal god. Both of them had ancient divine weapons. At this moment, they each used their divine techniques to attack with the support of the divine weapons. The 9 crow ancestor bodies appeared behind Luya. The heavens and the earth split apart, emitting a majestic might. It was as if a true ancient emperor had come into being. Luya had cultivated in seclusion for 4 years. His greatest harvest was cultivating the 9 crow ancestor bodies, which had an earth-shattering and unpredictable might. Unbounded sea expansion. He roared, and one of the crow ancestor bodies flew out. Its body pressed down on the heavens and the earth, swallowing and spitting divine light. A boundless ocean surged, boundless and without shore. This was not an ocean, but an immeasurable amount of the sun's essence fire. Luya stood in the center of the divine ocean, gathering the essence from all directions into the fire. He stood there like a demon god. This attack was the crow ancestor body's unbounded sea expansion, and it suppressed Yi Fan below. The immeasurable amount of the sun's essence fire and the essence of the world fell together. Yi Fan sat cross-legged in the void with the divine furnace above his head. His entire body was glowing. He floated in the sun's essence fire. Every inch of his body was sparkling, as if he was immortal in the divine fire. The first crow ancestor body couldn't do anything to him, so it was borrowed to refine his body. Genesis splitter. Luya shouted. The second crow ancestor body flew out, turning into an eternal painting. With the support of the divine weapon, it covered the sky and covered the earth. This was a real small world. There were mountains, rivers, ancient trees, silver waterfalls, birds and beasts inside. This crow ancestor body formed a world to refine Yi Fan within. Even the heavens will have their lifespan come to an end. One weapon to break all laws. Slay the world. Yi Fan shouted. 2 dragon-shaped beams shot out from his eyes, intertwining with each other. With the support of the goddess furnace, they shot out. There was no weapon in his hand, but there was a weapon in his heart. With his undefeatable will as his soul and his soaring battle intent as his weapon, one weapon to break all laws, he slashed out. This was a primordial spirit sword, indestructible. It was created by Yi Fan by imitating the 9 slashes of the demon monarch. It was created using the secret word of fighting, and it possessed boundless divine might. In the eye of the North Sea, he was trapped for 4 years and comprehended all the laws in the world. This was one of the fruits of his Tao. The primordial spirit sword had the power of the 9 slashes of the demon monarch. Combined with the technique of one weapon to break all laws, it could slay gods and Buddhas. In this world of the ancestral crow, it traversed 3,000 li. One strike shattered mountains and rivers, 2 strikes dried up rivers, 1 strike exterminated all life, and 1 strike collapsed the world. The primordial spirit sword slashed out, cleaving through Luya and intercepting the 9 great ancestral crows, destroying their boundless divine might. It was like an aurora weeping from the gods, drawing out an everlasting brilliance. Luya made his move. With a long roar, his hair danced wildly. The mountains in the distance collapsed from time to time. With an ancient sacred weapon in hand, he had a hint of saintly might. Behind him, the 3rd ancestral crow flew out, transforming into the sun, moon, and stars. A large area of stars undulated, as if they had arrived in the depths of the dark universe. The primordial spirit sword was like divine gold. It flew down with a flash of brilliance, as if it was splitting the world apart. It collided with these large stars, and the evolution and destruction of the stars all happened in a single breath of time. Amidst the cries of the Tao, the stars fell, and a crack appeared in the center of Lu Ya's brows. The primordial spirit sword flew back, entering Yi Fan's eyes and returning to his immortal platform. What method was that? To be able to resist the 9 great ancestral crows, Yi Fan was truly divine. This was what everyone was thinking. Clang, clang, clang. Tens of thousands of swords hummed, and the divine feathers of the golden crow danced in the sky. It was as if a golden snowstorm had fallen, covering a vast expanse of dazzling brilliance. After a short probing, Lu Ya's 9 great ancestral crows all appeared. He and Yi Fan both wanted to kill immediately, and had no intention of exchanging hundreds or thousands of blows. The 9 ancestral crows all appeared, as if the supreme might of their race's ancient ancestors had been reproduced. The sky was trembling, the earth was trembling, and the void was collapsing. All of this was strengthened by the ancient divine furnace, becoming so terrifying. It was as if the golden crow ancestor had truly returned and was once again ruling over the earth. Yi Fan was fearless. The goddess furnace above his head floated up and down, sending down tens of thousands of divine power threads to protect him. A Tao cry rang out, and all kinds of light flew out from his body. Immortal kings descended from the 9 heavens, golden seas of bitterness, and other phenomena appeared at the same time. They fused into one, as if they could break 3,000 worlds. Similarly, the phenomenon of the divine body had also been strengthened by the ancient divine furnace, and it was also incomparably terrifying. Traversing the heavens and earth, I am invincible. Yi Fan stood in the middle, like a god patrolling the heavens, looking down on the world. Beside Lu Ya, the 9 ancestral crows soared in the sky. They were not phenomena, but in reality, Dharma bodies. The immortal soul of their ancestors seemed to have returned. Evil winds howled, and demonic clouds surged. Kill! Both of them rushed forward, wanting nothing more than to kill their opponent immediately. Both of them pressed forward with indomitable will, not leaving even half a path of retreat. Lu Ya's golden hair stood on end, and his eyes were wide open. Beams of light shot out from his pupils for miles, and with a loud roar, the mountains, rivers, and all things trembled. Yi Fan's thick black hair all danced in the sky. In his eyes, there were the trajectories of the sun and moon, as well as the illusions of the stars. Those were the traces of the Tao. Endless murderous intent surged, and the two's attacks were like a great apocalypse. Everyone held their breath, quietly waiting for this earth-shattering battle. Chapter 742. The 9 crow ancestors rushed out at the same time, competing with the sun and moon, competing with heaven and earth for longevity as they rushed towards Yi Fan's phenomenon. Thousands of divine feathers fell from the 9 heavens, creating a vast expanse of brilliance. It was like a golden snowflake that had crossed the ages. All sorts of phenomena connected around Yi Fan. Although they were hazy and had yet to take form, they could obliterate all external forces. It was these 2 terrifying phenomena that collided with each other, emitting a dazzling divine light. Then, there was an endless silence, as if a star field was disintegrating. That resplendent light caused everyone to close their eyes. That terrifying darkness caused many people's souls to sink into it. The 2 completely opposite changes were completed in the instant that the fireworks bloomed, causing many people's hearts to palpitate. They had fallen from the center of the bright sun into an endless hell of darkness. This was what everyone felt in that instant. In front, Yifan seemed to have been petrified, motionless. Lu Ya's eyes were blazing, his spirit piercing the sky. A beam of divine light flew out from the top of his head, connecting the heavens and earth. Had the winner been decided? At the end of the horizon, people were watching nervously, not blinking. Lu Ya won. His aura is shocking, like a great river rushing into the sea, unstoppable. Everyone saw Lu Ya's magnificent appearance. His golden hair danced in the wind, the light in his eyes was incomparably terrifying, like an ancient statue standing there. Behind him, the 9 crow ancestor avatars were all arrogant, their divine feathers dancing in the air, their cries resounding through the 9 heavens. On the contrary, the light in Yifan's phenomenon dimmed, slowly disintegrating, returning to calmness, and then completely disappearing. Defeated, the youth surnamed Yi has lost in the end, defeated by Lu Ya. This battle seemed to have come to an end. Many people said so, some cheering, some sighing. The sky in the distance was noisy. Boom! Suddenly, Lu Ya took a big step back, spitting out a mouthful of blood. One of the crow ancestor avatars was torn to pieces. Boom! Then, Lu Ya took a second step back, a cracking sound coming from his sternum, clearly breaking. His soaring aura had completely dissipated, the divine light on the top of his head turning into a bloody light. What happened? People cried out in surprise and confusion. Lu Ya, who had been so powerful just a moment ago, was now coughing up blood with every step he took. The 9 ancestral ravens had all collapsed in front of him. The bones in his body continuously cracked, almost breaking inch by inch. There were some places where white bone stubble could be seen. Lu Ya lost. He actually lost. At this moment, everyone could see that Yifan's irregular phenomenon was naturally restrained and not destroyed. He wasn't injured in the slightest. The Dharma bodies of the 9 crows were completely defeated. Lu Ya was badly injured. His hair was disheveled and his body was covered in golden crow blood. He was almost destroyed. His bones were reconnecting, or else he wouldn't have been able to stand. Defeated. The #1 genius of the Golden Crow clan has been utterly defeated. Lu Ya is said to be a heaven-defying talent, a physique rarely seen in the Golden Crow clan in tens of thousands of years. But today he was defeated. The earth-shattering battle had come to an end. Even the 9 crow ancestor bodies had not been used. What else could Lu Ya do? Yifan activated the army formula and tried to pluck the divine hoe from Lu Ya's head. He was very cautious because he knew that it would be difficult to take it. There was a god sleeping in the holy weapon. Unless an ancient saint took action, no one in the present world could subdue it. It was like a sovereign weapon. Even if it was taken away for a while, it would be difficult for outsiders to control. Once the god in the weapon was resurrected, it would be a disaster. Is this the power of a divine physique? Among your generation, only Yin Tianda can suppress you. Lu Ya's smile was cruel, like that of a wild beast. The divine hoe hovered above his head, floating up and down. Beams of divine light fell from it. That was why he wasn't crushed by Yifan's irregular phenomenon. Yifan's eyes turned cold. He didn't say anything and stopped moving. He felt a slight sense of danger. This time, he didn't use any divine arts. He activated the goddess furnace and was ready to use it. He controlled it with the army formula to unleash its greatest power. My Tao heart is broken and there's no hope for me to prove my Tao, but I still have a way to kill you. Lu Ya was on the verge of madness. His 9 golden crow avatars were the foundation of his Tao, but they were destroyed by Yifan. This was a huge blow to his confidence. My Tao is far away and my Tao foundation has been destroyed. Since that's the case, I'll drag you down to the underworld with me to accompany my 9 brothers. Lu Ya's divine hoe shook as if he had turned into a demon. Every strand of his golden hair stood on end. Endless ripples flew out and the divine hoe emitted the power of an ancient saint. You want to kill me like this? Yifan sneered. He had the goddess furnace in his hand, so he didn't fear this enemy at all. Under normal circumstances, the two of them would fight for thousands of rounds. But now that he had destroyed Lu Ya's 9 avatars, everything was different. 10 crow pills a day. Lu Wu growled in a low voice and swallowed a golden crystal-clear pill the size of a knuckle. Yan Ishi's expression changed when he heard this name. He warned, "Retreat, he's going to take us down with him." What a monster, using 1 day of life to exchange for the power of 10 golden crows. Li Tian also shouted. At the end of the horizon, everyone who saw this scene changed their expressions. The 10 crow pills a day was a forbidden medicine. It was too heaven-defying and cruel. It could deplete a person's life force and they could only live for a day, but they could evolve 10 times their potential and become the best in the world. Eating this pill would be like a firework, blooming with the most dazzling beauty for a moment before disappearing forever. It would sublimate to the extreme and die in splendor. Ah! Luya screamed. All the bones in his body were moving like firecrackers. Every inch of his flesh released a blinding light as if he was on fire. 10 crow pills a day. Retreat. Yan Yishi and Li Tian both shouted. Yi Fan retreated. The goddess furnace on his head watched calmly as everything unfolded. Boom! Suddenly, a beam of immortal light rushed out from the pill Luya had swallowed and turned into a hazy golden figure. He stood high in the sky and looked down at Luya. Little Six, you've really disappointed me. Father! Luya cried out, but his expression was twisted. The effects of the pill had already taken effect. In the distance, everyone was shocked. Had their king arrived? This was an old golden crow with frightening battle achievements. He was almost comparable to a divine king at the peak. This was a 3,700-year-old king who had dominated his life. At his peak, he dared to go to the human king palace to steal their goddess. He was full of legends. It was also because of that battle that his foundation was damaged. He had to go into seclusion for more than 2,000 years. That was why he had children in his old age. But all of them were outstanding and had 10 princes. Isn't the golden crow in seclusion? He won't come out until he reaches the king realm. Could it be that he has taken that step? This was the question on everyone's mind. Father, you. Luya was also shocked and puzzled. Little Six, you've disappointed me greatly. What's the big deal about the Tao Foundation? Cut it off and start again. Sooner or later, you'll open a wider path. The old golden crow was dignified and terrifying. I've disappointed you. I'll be your son in the next life. Luya was very unyielding and was ready to fight with his life on the line. If this is all you've got, you won't be worthy of being my son in the next life. Wake up. The old golden crow shouted. But I've already swallowed the 10 dark pill. I don't have much time. Luya's veins bulged like swimming dragons, ready to explode at any moment. Back then, I've already cut off 60% of the medicine's effects when you took it. You can live. Go and fight your way out. I'll wait for your return, the golden crow said as his figure gradually faded. Ah! Luya cried out. He grabbed the divine talisman and swung it forward. 4 times the potential is just an overdraft of one's lifespan. It's nothing. Yi Fan sneered coldly. He walked forward step by step without the slightest fear. What are you saying? Luya's hair stood up in anger. He was the proud divine son of a generation and the #1 hero of the Golden Crow race. Yet, he was being looked down upon by Yi Fan. Eating the 10 dark pill in 1 day was already sullen enough. Let me send you on your way. Yi Fan didn't want to say anything else. He took off the goddess cauldron and pressed it forward. The goddess cauldron was more powerful than the Blackwing golden centipede. That was because it was forged by an ancient emperor and possessed boundless mysteries. Immediately, the heavens and earth split apart as the aura of an ancient saint filled the air. Luya's expression was ashen. A large flag rushed out from the depths of his soul and fluttered loudly. He could sense that some of his clansmen were flying over. Summon the ancestral flag. In the blink of an eye, the sky and earth were covered with flags fluttering in the wind. It was as if 100,000 heavenly soldiers were charging over. The other 7 flags tore through the sky like 7 ancestral crows descending. This was the race's ultimate killing formation. Back in the Tang Valley, the Golden Crow race once displayed their most treasured weapon. The 8 flags formed an ancient killing formation that was comparable to a holy weapon because it was left behind by a saint. Unfortunately, it was all severed by the will of a deity formed by the human sovereign. Now these flags were the broken flags. Even though they were destroyed, they still contained boundless divine power. Without a doubt, there were experts of the Golden Crow race rushing over to save Luya. Swoosh! The 8 flags fluttered and the Golden Crow soared into the sky. Together with the divine centipede, they released the aura of an ancient saint. The Golden Crow race had spent a lot of effort to kill Yi Fan. Other than Lu Ya with the divine centipede, they also sent out a group of experts with ancestral flags. Now they were finally put to use. It's useless. You won't survive even if you summon another holy weapon. Yi Fan made his move and the goddess cauldron came crashing down. I don't believe that the combination of the divine centipede and the ancestral flag can't suppress a holy weapon. Lu Ya roared. His quadruple potential was activated and his entire body seemed to be on fire. Boom! The Blackwing Golden Centipede and the 8 ancestral flags attacked the sparkling cauldron together. Boom! The heaven and earth shook violently. Lu Ya burned his potential and blocked the goddess cauldron with a half-holy weapon. Moreover, he was extremely crazy, looking as if he wanted to destroy the cauldron with him. Let's end this. Yi Fan released a cold shout. At this crucial moment, he didn't want to suffer even the slightest injury to prevent others from taking advantage of him. He opened his palm, and a black jade-like skull appeared, pressing forward. The skull of an ancient saint of the lunar sect, people exclaimed. The skull that was translucent like a black crystal immediately blocked the broken Golden Crow ancestral flag and dissolved the primordial killing formation. Then, the goddess cauldron came crashing down, causing the divine centipede to tremble. Lu Ya spat out a mouthful of blood and his body cracked inch by inch. It looked like he was about to be destroyed. The end of the world was unknown. This was a world of flames. There were heavenly flames everywhere. In an ancient cave, there was even the essence of the sun. And this terrifying place was actually a place of seclusion. At this moment, a demon-like king suddenly opened his eyes and shot out 2 bolts of lightning from the ancient cave. He was the Golden Crow, a super terrifying existence. Almost all those of his generation had died. Even in the past, there weren't many who could compete with him. The moment he woke up, in the Yuan ruins of the Divine Continent, the shadow contained in the precious pill that Lu Ya had swallowed suddenly seemed to be nourished and appeared again. This time it was incomparably real. Am I coming out of seclusion? The Golden Crow muttered to himself. He raised the divine centipede with one hand and blocked the killing blow of the divine centipede. In the sky, it was as if 10 suns had collapsed. The Golden Crow has manifested as a projection from the outer realms. Everyone who saw this scene was shocked. Father! Lu Ya shouted. He knew that this manifestation was different from the last time. This father of his was extremely powerful. This time, the Golden Crow's body was incomparably clear. This was a demon-like middle-aged man, suffocating everyone just by standing there. In his eyes, mountains and rivers were collapsing, the passing of time, and the stars were destroyed. It was incomparably ancient and terrifying. He stood in the void with a divine centipede in hand. With a light shake, the raging waves crashed against the shore. This part of the world was about to be destroyed. Yi Fan held the divine centipede in his palm. His body trembled violently and he retreated a full 20 steps. Cracks appeared on his forehead, and streams of blood flowed out. It was a terrifying sight. Bang! He finally steadied himself. His expression was incomparably cold as he stared at the terrifying king in front of him. Interesting. The Golden Crow's voice was very cold, like a demonic god from hell. My body is hard, and my Tao is even stronger. You want to shatter my immortal foundation? That's destined to be for naught. Even if you appear here today, I will still kill Lu Ya. Yi Fan shouted. With me here you can still kill him. The Golden Crow's voice was vast and distant, reverberating throughout the world and causing everyone's blood to churn. Even though he had transformed into a projection outside the heavenly realm, he was still so terrifying. He was worthy of being called a demonic godlike existence. With you here, I will still kill him without hesitation. Yi Fan said with incomparable resolution. Is that so? The Golden Crow was indifferent as if he didn't care about anything in the world. Boom! Suddenly, he raised his head. His eyes became incomparably terrifying and full of demonic nature. They were like 2 black holes with stars falling from them. At this moment, he possessed an extremely terrifying aura. It was as if he could collapse mountains and dry up the seas. This was the demeanor of a peerless expert. A single glance could topple mountains and topple rivers. He had merged with the divine centipede, and the formless pressure was already unbearable, not to mention a slight tremble from him. Cracks once again appeared on Yi Fan's forehead as veins appeared one after another. His body was like a spiderweb of blood as if it was about to crack. He was a peerless expert and a grand completion king. No one could match him in the form of a projection from the outer realm. Yi Fan, run! Li Tian and Yan Yishi cried out in secret. It's not like my true body has descended. I'll definitely kill Luya today, Yi Fan said resolutely as he activated the goddess cauldron. There might be hope if you have another holy weapon. Otherwise. The golden crow suddenly stopped and glanced to the side. The black skull entangled with Zhu Wu's banner suddenly glowed brightly and unleashed the might of an ancient saint. At this moment, time and space became chaotic and the heaven and earth trembled. It was as if several holy weapons were clashing at the same time, causing everyone to close their eyes in a blaze. When they opened their eyes again, Yi Fan was coughing up large mouthfuls of blood as he retreated with the divine cauldron in his hand. His forehead had almost been pierced through. On the other side, the golden crow's expression was extremely cold. A bloody mist was drifting in the distance, accompanied by a mournful howl. Lu Ya's body and soul had been completely destroyed. There's an ancient holy weapon hidden in the skull. The golden crow was cold and emotionless. He wasn't at all enraged by the loss of his son. Everyone was dumbfounded. Yi Fan really dared to kill Lu Ya in front of the golden crow. Chapter 743. The black skull was sparkling and translucent. It was like a perfect work of art that had belonged to the great Yin saint back in the day. At this moment, it was spewing out auspicious light and its 7 apertures were steaming. It was trembling as if it had a life of its own. It was precisely this attack that had broken through the golden crow's defenses. Little Six, you've disappointed me. I had great hopes for you to die at such a young age, but I can't help you. The golden crow was neither angry nor furious. He was calm and indifferent as if he was talking about something that had nothing to do with him. This was even more terrifying. Was this the calm before the storm, or was this just his character? He would remain unmoved even if Mount Tai collapsed before him. The 10 princes of the Golden Crow School have all died in the hands of a single person. At this moment, the cultivators in the sky were shaken. Luya was dead and the bloody mist had dispersed. The golden crow was completely unmoved and only continued to stare at the skull of the ancient saint. The others were also pondering. All the ancient weapons in this world had their own unique characteristics and could be counted. Which one was it? Yi Fan laughed. The army formula alone could conceal everything and evade everyone's detection. In truth, there were many secret arts that could conceal weapons without giving them away. Just like back in the northern divine city, heroes from all over had come to kill the white-robed divine king. The most powerful among them was the sovereign of the Eventide who had arrived with a supreme imperial weapon. Even now, no one knew which one it was. The golden crow suddenly turned around and faced Yi Fan. He didn't say anything else and directly attacked. The sun and moon in his eyes fell and the mountains and rivers collapsed. The vicissitudes of time seemed to be circulating within them. At this moment, the primordial wilderness appeared. The hegemon of this world, the golden crow, had descended upon the earth and swept through the sky with beams of golden light. This was a suppressive killing intent. This scene had transformed into a tangible world that pressed forward. Even though he had manifested as a projection from outer space, he still possessed the divine bearing of a supreme monarch. He simply couldn't be measured with common sense. His magic power was torrential and his divine might boundless. This was an earth-shattering attack that almost suffocated everyone. Even the people in the sky trembled when they saw the scene of the primordial wilderness and the golden crow soaring through the sky. At the center of the battlefield, Yi Fan held the goddess furnace in his hand. Facing this ancient battlefield of the past, he felt as if he had been struck by lightning. His body retreated more than 10 steps. With every step he took, Dao marks would appear in the air. His immortal foundation was under intense attack. This was a formless King Dao. Crack! The golden crow was sacrificing his Dao to kill the last secret realm in Yi Fan's body. He was merciless, cruel, and unstoppable. Yi Fan's primordial spirit trembled violently. Cracks appeared on the tiny golden figure, extending all the way to his immortal foundation. This was an extremely terrifying and dangerous situation. If this continued, his immortal foundation would be destroyed and he would become a retard, becoming a zombie. Pooh! Yi Fan was injured, and he coughed up large mouthfuls of blood. Facing Yi Fan, who was comparable to a great perfection god king, was like facing a demonic god, and the pressure was endless. Kacha! Fresh blood flowed from the center of his brows as a terrifying wound appeared. The energy that destroyed his Tao foundation invaded his body, causing his primordial spirit to become unstable. This was the suppression of the Tao, an attack from the source of divine might. It was formless and traceless. Yi Fan held the furnace in his hand and circulated the ancient scripture. His body shone with golden light as he transformed into a sacred domain. Boom! In the last strike, his frontal bone was almost shattered. This was almost unimaginable since he had cultivated his physical body to this level. He injured my physical body. Yi Fan mumbled. Someone comparable to a great perfection god king was truly terrifying. His true body was here, yet his Tao attacks were already so sharp. The disparity in cultivation bases was too great. Even if you were a dragon, you would have to coil up when you were young. You wouldn't be a match for other ferocious beasts. The logic was the same. Although Yi Fan had a saint physique and was very powerful now, his cultivation base was still far from being comparable to a great perfection god king. But in the end, it was just a projection outside the heavenly domain and not his true body. Yi Fan managed to block this calamity with the appearance of his golden sacred domain. He staggered backwards. The sacred domain was like gold as it enveloped him, turning him into an untouchable land as he confronted the golden crow. Unfortunately, the power I can use is too little. It's time for my true body to come out and exercise. The golden crow was regretful. Without his true body, his attacks were limited. In the horizon, everyone felt a chill run down their spine. Was the powerful golden crow going to come into being again? Who in the world could contend against a great perfection god king? This was news that would shake every continent and even cause a huge uproar overseas. How many years had it been since a great perfection god king had come out? It was hard to remember. Clang! Yi Fan made his move and activated the goddess furnace. On the other side, the black ancient saint's skull also trembled and pressed down like a demonic pagoda. Clang, clang. This was a confrontation between holy weapons. It was faster than lightning and even more violent than the collapse of a star domain. This was a violent surge of divine might. Even those hiding in the horizon were affected. No one could see what was happening at the scene. Only the alternating light and black holes turned the area into a demonic firmament. Nothing else could be seen. With a final tremor, the world became clear. Yi Fan fell back with a wisp of blood seeping out from the corner of his mouth. There was a fist-sized hole in his chest that went through the front and back. His heart had almost been crushed. What a terrifying great perfection god king! He's so heaven-defying that he's formed a projection outside the heavenly domain. He's tens of millions of kilometers away, yet he's still able to display such divine might. This was what everyone was thinking. Everyone was terrified. If it were anyone else, they would have been destroyed long ago. Only the saint physique could withstand this attack. The gap between realms couldn't be measured in terms of distance. The peerless king's bearing was invincible and didn't tarnish his reputation. What a pity! It would have been better if I had a few more strands of divine might. My strength is lacking. The golden crow muttered to himself. His attacks were limited everywhere. Boom! He joined his hands together and the ancient great earth appeared once again. The golden crow crisscrossed and turned into a heaven and earth furnace. His hands moved about, and the trajectory of the Tao appeared to cover up Yi Fan. This was using the heaven and earth as the furnace and the Tao intent as the cauldron to refine and sacrifice Yi Fan alive. The golden crow race's ancient divine puppet was floating above the furnace. Tens of thousands of silk ribbons hung down to aid in the burning of the Tao flame. Boom! The copper furnace became more and more real. The golden crow stood in the sky, and his Tao intent was like fire as he poured it down below. He said, "Tao transformation." This time, everyone couldn't see anything. There was only light there. The Tao intent was driving the furnace. This was an attack of Tao and magic. At the center of the brilliance, Yi Fan's expression was serious. This was the final stage of a king's attack. If he didn't handle it well, he might really die. He waved his hands and produced a golden circle. His sacred domain expanded and his magical power overflowed into the sky. Golden light gushed out to pierce through the copper furnace. Then, he threw out the goddess cauldron in his palm and pointed it at the center of the golden Taiji circle. The light was resplendent and blinding. The fist-sized divine cauldron became a divine point in the yin-yang fish like a sun in the sky. Bang! He slapped out with his other hand and produced the ancient saint's black skull. It also fixed itself in the golden taiji circle and became another divine point in the yin-yang fish. This black skull contained the moon tower, which was borrowed from Jianghu. It was embedded in the skull, making it hard for outsiders to sense. This was a terrifying evolution. Even the golden crow was shaken after seeing it. He muttered to himself, "Divine form." At this time, Yi Fan blocked the Tao flames and remained calm in the furnace. He shook it forcefully, and the golden taiji circle rose into the sky. Its divine might was terrifying, and the world seemed to be returning to primal chaos. In the fierce battle between light and darkness, between brilliance and black holes, Yi Fan used the golden taiji circle to break the furnace and fight the golden crow. During this process, the two clashed fiercely. Their holy weapons trembled repeatedly as they fought until the world was flickering and out of shape. The golden taiji circle's divine might was terrifying because the two yin and yang points had been replaced by the ancient holy weapons. The goddess cauldron and the moon tower, one yang and one yin, were in line with its essence. In the end, a giant void abyss appeared, devouring and flattening everything. The world was silent and nothing could be seen. After an unknown period of time, light finally appeared. When everything was still, the two rushed out of the crack in the void one after the other. The golden crow stared ahead and said, "In the present age, Xianxia evolved a flawless divine form over 10 years ago. Now, there's another one." When one's physical shell evolved to the extreme, it would take the form of a Tao. This was a manifestation of one's profound cultivation and entering the Tao palace. It was also the direction to prove one's Tao in the future. All such transformations were called divine forms. 4 years ago, Jianghu had said that Xianxia had used his divine form during the Moon Palace's 108 life and death junctures. She herself would also succeed. "It seems there's no way to kill you today." The golden crow sighed. His 10 sons were all geniuses, but they had all died in the hands of the same person. He decisively retreated with the black-winged flowing gold centipede and escaped into the sky. Everyone was astonished. Just what kind of divine form had Yi Fan evolved? He had blocked the attack of a Grand Completion King. This was simply unheard of. He's transformed into a projection in outer space. Although it's not his true body, the one who used it is still a Grand Completion King. At this moment, everyone realized that a person who could compete with the master of the 8 Visions Temple had appeared. As long as he didn't die, he would surely become the second Xianxia. "Are we going to leave just like that? Why don't you lend me the divine puppet for a while?" Yi Fan used the 2 ancient holy weapons as the yin and yang points of the golden taiji circle to cut off the path ahead. The weapon contains a divine will. Once awakened, no one can subdue it except the ancient saints. Apart from my golden crow race, there's no one else in this world who can use it. "Are you sure you want to take the risk?" the golden crow asked. "There's no need. I can shatter the goddess furnace and forge a new divine weapon," replied Yi Fan. "Young man, don't go overboard. Otherwise, things might get out of hand." The golden crow was majestic like a demonic god. His golden hair draped over his shoulders as he gazed over coldly. "I will treat the benevolent with respect, but I won't leave half a thread of life for those who come with a butcher's knife." Yi Fan made his move. With the 2 ancient holy weapons as the yin and yang points, his divine form had become countless times more powerful. Even his projection in outer space was no match for a Grand Completion King. Boom! The godlike golden crow let out a long cry. Most of his essence energy was ignited and poured into the ancient divine puppet, which then shot towards Yi Fan. Boom! The 2 yin and yang points in the divine form vibrated at the same time, shooting out yin and yang energies along with the divine power of the great Tao. However, the all-out attack of a king was immeasurable. The divine puppet penetrated through and arrived before Chu Feng. The divine form trembled once more as the ancient divine puppet tore through the void and disappeared in an instant. "Young man, I'll let you understand the consequences of not going overboard." The golden crow had borrowed the power of the divine puppet to arrive before Chu Feng. This time, he wanted to destroy everything indiscriminately. His entire body ignited as he transformed into a beam of immortal light that pierced towards Yi Fan's head. Yi Fan's immortal foundation trembled violently as a bloody mark appeared on his forehead. The immortal light was about to enter. Boom! Suddenly, a small golden figure emerged from the space between Yi Fan's brows and pressed down. At this moment, Time stopped and the heaven and earth froze. The golden crow let out a loud cry as his body turned faint and turned into ashes. Only an incomplete sentence was spat out, after the divine form. Chapter 744. Everyone said that the Golden Crow race's most glorious era had arrived. With 10 heroes, everyone believed that the world would belong to them in the future. However, Blood and Bones formed a sad song that shattered this understanding. The 10 princes of the Golden Crow race had all fallen, and even the strongest, Wuxia, had lost his life. This result made the faces of all the cultivators in the world turn cold. Such a battle record and the scattering of blood and bones was done by a single person. Yi Fan had killed the 10th prince of the Golden Crow race alone. Such a glorious battle record would probably be spread for many years to come, and it might even become a legend in the future. Shooting the Golden Crow with his bow, fighting against the divine sons, fighting against a grand completion king, and turning into a projection outside the heavens. These world-shaking battles caused Yi Fan's name to rapidly spread throughout the world. In this era where saints didn't appear and grand completion divine kings were nowhere to be seen, the rise of such a young expert naturally shook the world. Now, there was no one in the several great continents who didn't know the name Yi Fan. During this period, he had become the focal point of people's discussions. However, such a stunning up-and-coming talent had a blank past. It was impossible to find out his past as if he had appeared out of thin air. The battle at the Origin ruins shocked everyone. Yi Fan's rise wasn't too fast and fierce. Everyone agreed that this was someone who had the ambition to verify the Tao. In the future, there would be no peaceful days in the Ziwei ancient star field. One Yin Tianda was already very frightening. 14 years ago, he had killed so many sect masters that they didn't dare speak up. He had forged a terrifying legend by advancing iron-bloodedly. And now, another Yi Fan had appeared. In the future, there would definitely be fierce battles between dragons and tigers. 3 slashes of the Tao would most likely not be able to stop him. Blood would inevitably splatter on the path of becoming a great emperor. Many heroes would wither and heroes would fall on the path of the great emperor. White bones could be seen everywhere, and the spilled blood was accompanied by mournful songs. This was a path built from blood and bones. Without experiencing slaughter and becoming accustomed to death, one didn't know how much suffering and disaster there were. It was difficult to see the end of the emperor's path. This was a path that passed through piles of corpses. The ancient great emperors were said to be glorious and admired by all, but they had also fought their way through like this. They were baptized in the blood of various kings and advanced by stepping on their bones. I dare say that Yin Tianda will definitely fight Yi Fan, and it won't be too long. 2 heaven-warping kings being born in the same era is truly a tragedy. Even without Yin Tianji's death, one of them would have fallen. Everyone was discussing fervently. They all believed that the 2 of them would collide and create the most brilliant string of flames in this era. Everyone believed that Yi Fan would definitely think of a way to break through the insurmountable barrier of 3 slashes of the Tao in the shortest amount of time possible. Otherwise, how could he compete with Yin Tianji in the future? Not only was it related to who could verify the Tao, but it was also a matter of life and death. There was no way out for the loser. Just how powerful was Yin Tianji? Even Yi Fan couldn't help but ask this question. His battle with the divine sons had shaken the world, but it still couldn't change people's opinions. On this land, everyone believed that Yin Tianda was terrifying to the extreme. He was like this in the past, is like this now, and will be like this in the future. There's no doubt that he's number 1 among his peers, suppressing those of the older generation to the point where they can't even breathe. 14 years ago, he already had 1 foot in the 3rd layer of immortal foundation. He has an extremely deep understanding of the Tao. Before he reached the king level, he once discussed the Tao with the Golden Crow in an ancient cave for 7 days. This was the simplest and most direct information given by Li Tian and Xianxia, causing Yi Fan to frown. No matter how one looked at it, Yin Tianda was like the protagonist of this world, the one who would verify the Tao of this ancient planet in the future. Let me speak the truth. We can only retreat and not fight him head-on. Otherwise, we'll only be sending ourselves to our deaths. Even the arrogant Li Tian said such words. He had seen Yi Fan's combat strength with his own eyes, but he still said such words. This was enough to show how terrifying Yin Tianda was. One had to know that Li Tian and Xianxia were experts at the same level as the Taiyin godchild and Wuxia. They were also the most terrifying people of the younger generation. And now, Yin Tianda was riding an ox westward, advancing along an ancient road. Purple chi spread out for 8,000 miles and disappeared in the west. No one knew how powerful he would become after imitating the ancients. Perhaps this would be an important journey of his life to transform into the Tao. I'm a man, not a woman. If you don't believe me, I'll show you. An incomparably ear-piercing shriek was heard. The snake spirit boy from the Eight Visions Temple screamed miserably as if he had been tortured 100 times. Li Tian's old face turned black. He went up and kicked him twice, cursing, "Damn you, am I really so panicky? Can't I tell if it's a male or a female?" The snake spirit boy's little face turned pale from fright. He was paralyzed on the spot, but in the end, he gritted his teeth and put on an expression that said, "Do whatever you want." "You long worm spirit, what kind of expression is that? If you look at me like that again, I'll kill you with one slap." Li Tian said with a dark expression. This was a short mountain. There were no plants, only some rocks, and it was completely bare. This area was very desolate. Yi Fan and the others interrogated the snake spirit boy, wanting to know everything about the Eight Visions Temple. An hour later, they left this small mountain area and cut off part of the snake spirit boy's essence spirit, leaving him a way out. The Eight Visions Temple was indeed not easy to enter. It had to be in accordance with the weather, or else there would be an ancient formation protecting it. Moreover, they had to enter the Grand Pure Saint realm first, which made people feel that this stage was very dangerous. Yin Tianda closed it after leaving. According to the snake spirit's memories, it could not be opened by force. With the goddess furnace in hand, we can open the Grand Pure Saint realm. However, we have to wait until the night of the full moon. How troublesome. It still depends on the weather. Li Tian and the others discussed and decided to take action in a few days. The goddess furnace was notorious. The two brothers wanted to leave this ancient planet and develop elsewhere, so they decided to take away the various artifacts left behind in the ancient cave. In the next few days, a shocking piece of news appeared. The Golden Crow came out of seclusion and directly came to the Eastern Divine Continent to search for traces of Yi Fan, a sovereign descending upon the world. This was everyone's first reaction when they heard the news. This was a king at the advanced level who had finally come out after many years of seclusion. A few days ago, he had transformed into a projection outside the heavenly realm. It was not his true body, but he could attack from tens of millions of miles away. Compared to his true body, that phantom was far too inferior. Now that the Golden Crow's true body had appeared, who in the world could defeat him? He had come to kill Yi Fan and seek justice for the 10 princes. It had been many years since such a king had appeared. The whole world was shocked. "Sigh, if everything goes well, we'll have to leave this ancient planet. I really can't bear to leave." The evil Li Tian was somewhat sad. This was the ancient mountain where the Man of Desire's Tao was. He and Yan Ishi had already emptied the cave residences and had nothing else to take. "Uncle, cry if you want," Tong Tong said while hugging a snow-white rabbit. "Damn, don't look down at the rabbit when talking to me," Li Tian said angrily. Little Tong Tong felt wronged and ran away with the white rabbit, no longer paying attention to him. "What's there to be reluctant about?" Yi Fan asked with a smile. "I'm known as the world's #1 pervert in vain, but I'm still a king pure-hearted young man. I've never broken my restrictions." Li Tian cursed. "Pfff." Yi Fan directly spat out a mouthful of tea. If not for the divine light protecting his body, Li Tian's face would definitely be drenched in tea. "Can you be even more shameless? I knew you guys wouldn't believe me. Sigh, I've seen the 9th beauty of the human race bathe, the 8th beauty soak in the spirit spring, and I was fortunate enough to see the 5th beauty undress in her room. But I really didn't do anything, and yet I'm being hunted down by people all over the continents. I feel wronged." Li Tian complained and then swore, "It's fine. I'm coming from the Big Dipper star field. Primordial girls, goddesses of myriad races. I'm coming. I won't let you down." Yan Ishi's white robes fluttered in the wind. He was like a handsome man walking out from a painting. Compared to the evil aura of his junior brother, they were two completely different temperaments. "Junior brother, what do you think we should do with this jade talisman?" After tidying up the ancient cave, a jade talisman attracted his attention. He solemnly held it in his palm. "Heavenly Secrets Talisman." Li Tian was shocked. "Where did you find it?" In the ashes of the incense burner in front of the ancestor platform. Those goddamn old bastards. How could they throw away such an important talisman? Aren't they trying to scam their descendants? Li Tian cursed the ancestral masters. Is this talisman very special? Yi Fan asked. Of course. This is the holy talisman of the heavenly secret sect. They would only give it out when they owe a great favor. With it, they can ask the secluded ancient Taoist sect to calculate good or bad luck, as well as everything they want to know. Li Tian was very excited. He added, moreover, there are a total of 4 chances. The heavenly secret sect had unfathomable abilities. They could deduce fortunes and make all kinds of accurate prophecies. However, because they could pry into heaven's secrets, they would incur the jealousy of the heavens. Thus, although they had world-shaking divine techniques, they could not flourish. There were only a few disciples in the past generations. We're leaving soon. We must make good use of these 4 chances. Let me think about what to ask the Elder of Heavenly Secrets to predict. Li Tian dawdled. Let's see if Jianghu and I are fated. Damn it, there's no need for that. She's already been taken by a pig. What nonsense are you spouting? Yi Fan really wanted to kick him. This bastard should be a pure and innocent young man for the rest of his life. His words were too unpleasant. I'm saying that the #1 beauty in the world will attack the 8 Visions Palace with us on the night of the full moon. There's no need to predict what she will do, Li Tian explained. We're leaving soon. This heavenly secrets talisman must be used wisely, Xianxia said. Yes, we're leaving soon. All the beauties are no different from skeletons. But I'm really unwilling. Li Tian let out a long sigh. Think carefully. What else do you want to divine? Yi Fan asked. The few of them pondered and finally thought of many things, such as the great emperor's divine treasury and the immortal divine medicine. But they all felt that it was unrealistic. Forget it. Let's ask about the road ahead. There's one more thing. What's the secret behind the half-page of the Longevity Taoist Temple and the Human King Hall? It was said that if the two were combined, it would be a complete page of the ancient god scripture. It had caused a commotion for a few years. It was said that the 2 sects would study it together, but it never came to fruition. Taiyuan was located in the western part of the divine continent. The secluded heavenly secret sect shut their doors here and rarely appeared in the world. Especially in the past 2,000 years, they had become even more low-key. They never prophesied or divined the heavenly secret sect, which almost made people think that their legacy had been severed. First ask about the road ahead, then ask about the ancient god scripture. I'm very curious about this. Li Tian, Xianxia, and Yi Fan arrived at Taiyuan. This was a deep valley that led underground and almost no sunlight could be seen. Even if the heavens are jealous, there's no need to hide in such a place, right? Li Tian was speechless. They were stopped just as they approached Taiyuan. A Taoist child ran over and handed them an embroidered box, saying, Elder Tianji knows where you're coming from. Everything is in this box. He knows why we're here? Even Yi Fan was shocked. The Taoist child revealed a sorrowful expression and said, The patriarch will pass away in 3 days. Elder Tianji of every generation is almost psychic before his death. He can see the distant future and can naturally predict it. What? Elder Tianji is going to pass away in meditation. The few of them were shaken and bowed deeply to Taiyuan. There were 2 folded yellow pieces of paper in the box. The first one had the words, Outer Realm, written on it, and after unfolding, there were only 2 words inside, feasible. What? He really knows we're going to leave this ancient star. The 3 of them couldn't help but be shocked. This secluded ancient sect really did have unfathomable techniques. The second piece of paper had the words, Ancient God Scripture, written on it. They were somewhat excited. Li Tian was trembling as he unfolded the folded paper. Chapter 745. Ancient Divine Scripture. These 4 words were so eye-catching, almost attracting the attention of the 3 of them. They stared at it and Li Tian's hands trembled. The paper was slightly yellow. This was the heavenly Tao paper unique to the Taoist sects. It was refined through many complicated ancient methods. When it was opened, Tao ripples seeped out. There were only a few words on the yellow paper. The force penetrated through the paper, vigorous and forceful, like a dragon leaping into the sea. The hearts of the 3 of them started as they revealed strange expressions. On the night of the full moon, at the Yuhua Immortal Cliff. There were only these 8 words on the yellow paper. Was this pointing out heaven's secrets? Was it saying that the ancient divine scripture had appeared there? The hearts of the 3 of them trembled, finding it hard to calm down. Can we see old man Tianji one last time? Li Tian had a rare solemn expression. The ancestor is about to pass away. He won't see any outsiders for the last 3 days and won't make any prophecies. Otherwise, it will bring a great disaster to our ancient Tao. The little Tao child had a sorrowful expression. The Heavenly Secret Sect was a hidden ancient Tao sect. They had been incomparably low profile for so many years because they had seen through too many heavenly secrets and encountered too many disasters. In the past, old man Tianji would communicate with them at the last moment of their lives. They were almost like gods of prophecy and could see many scenes of the future. But at this moment, they couldn't say it out loud. Otherwise, they would definitely leave behind a great disaster for their descendants. It was fine if they died miserably after revealing the heavenly secrets, but it might even cause the Tao sect to be severed. There are still 2 more prophecies to give to the 3 of you. Please come again 20 years later. The little Tao child recited celestial being and bowed. With such an unforeseen event happening to the Heavenly Secrets ancient Tao sect, Yi Fan and the others didn't want to disturb them. They paid their respects outside Taiyuan before leaving. Before the Ziwei Divine Dynasty's supreme imperial teacher Tianji passed away, he used his entire life's worth of Tao to deduce that the dynasty would definitely prosper. A divine infant would descend from the heavens and become a divine lord. But after he said this, his grandson died prematurely and his eldest son was heavily injured. From this, one could see how tragic the person who leaked the heavenly secrets was. On the way back, Yan Ishi sighed. Is there really a type of power in the unseen? Why can it foresee the future? What's going on with heavenly secrets and heavenly punishment? Yi Fan mumbled. This kind of thing is very illusory. Due to the various miracles of the ancient Tao sect of heavenly mysteries, there were a few saints who specially researched it in the primordial era, said Yan Ishi. Oh, tell me about it. What's going on? Yi Fan was very interested. In the words of the ancient sages, nothing is destined. Everything is changing. The so-called prophecies are not necessarily accurate. The few ancient sages all had great wisdom. They used the simplest Tao power to explain all of this so that ordinary people could easily understand. According to them, everyone and everything had their own trajectories, moving in the midst of change. Occasionally, someone would have a flash of inspiration and capture this kind of trajectory, which was to foresee the future. Just like the moment when the yellow leaf fell off the branch, people could foresee that it would fall to the ground. Just like the moment the dam burst, people knew in their terror that it would wash away the villages downstream. Just like how the swan goose wailed when it was hit by an arrow, people could predict that it would fall to the ground. These were very simple, and people would not think much of it. They did not think that it was a prophecy. But in truth they could delve deeper. If these processes were complicated, it would become the so-called divination of heavenly mysteries. In this world, there were some causes and some effects that could sometimes be foreseen. This was what it meant to pry into heavenly mysteries. Whether it was people, objects, or things, they all had their own trajectories. If one could see the first half of their trajectory, one could sometimes predict the next. Of course, all things were constantly changing, and no one could truly predict the future. For example, the withered yellow leaf might not necessarily fall to the ground. It was very likely that it would be blown up by the wind and fall into a tree hole. If the river burst its dam, it might change its course midway, but it might not wash away the villages downstream. For example, the swan goose that was hit by an arrow might also be wounded and flee far away, not falling to the ground. Yi Fan listened and felt that this was very reasonable. The simple explanations of the ancient sages made everything very easy to understand. In other words, the 2 pieces of prophecy paper that the Elder of Heavenly Mysteries gave us before his death might change and might not necessarily be accurate? Li Tian said. Although people, things, and objects all had their own trajectories, there were still unpredictable variables. However, they did not care too much about this, because the road ahead had always been full of uncertainty. Even the Elder of Heavenly Mysteries had only said 4 words, "The outer realms are feasible." And what is heavenly wrath? Yi Fan asked. According to the ancient sages, it's just a kind of Tao energy, Yan Ishi said. When a person occasionally flashed with divine light, their thoughts would transcend and rise above their trajectory. allowing them to see the road ahead and understand the future. And in this process, they would also activate the power of the original trajectory. The power of this trajectory was very frightening. While understanding the road ahead, you would also interfere with this trajectory, and its fluctuations would inevitably have a kind of force and influence on you. It's very reasonable. Yi Fan nodded. The ancient sages were indeed impressive. They had practically explained and spoken of all the mysteries. I'm standing on this mountain and can see the road ahead. Does this mean that I've seen through a kind of trajectory and there's a Tao energy effect? Li Tian said. Yes, but it's almost negligible. This is the basic principle, and it's also the power of the trajectory that all of us are facing at all times. Why make it so complicated? I'll do my own thing and walk my own path. Whatever trajectory, whatever Tao energy, I'll trample them all and kill those who stand in my way. The group chatted as they left Taiyuan. The Cliff of Immortal Ascension was located in the easternmost part of the Divine Continent, adjacent to the boundless blue sea. It was a very legendary place. The legend of immortals was an eternal topic. Be it in the Big Dipper star region or this ancient planet, it had always been a lingering mystery. Some said that the great ancient emperor had ascended to immortality here and left this world. As a result, there were no more secrets of the great emperor and no more ultimate weapons. Others said that this was a cliff that had fallen from the immortal world. In ancient times, the great sage of the human race had personally witnessed this scene. Some even said that immortals were nameless, but this was indeed the place where they ascended to immortality. All immortals had to take this path. No matter what, there were indeed ancient records that the Great Yin and Great Yang ancient emperors had disappeared from here. Although there was no evidence, it was recognized by many. The ancient divine scripture, the night of the full moon, the cliff of immortal ascension, this time. If they didn't go and take a look, Yi Fan and the others wouldn't be able to let it go. However, it clashed with the time of the attack on the Eight Visions Palace. This was a helpless choice. No matter what, let's go to the cliff of immortal ascension first. After that, we'll rush to the Eight Visions Palace. If we really can't make it in time, we'll wait for the next night of the full moon. The sea was boundless, with billions of blue waves. The tides rose and fell, vast and boundless. No matter how powerful a person was, when faced with such a scene, they would feel insignificant. Compared to the vast sea, compared to the vast universe, an individual was truly insignificant. Every time this happens, I'll feel powerless. No matter how many beauties there are, they won't be able to fill up this much water, Li Tian said. Uncle, is it that the pervert only has eyes for beauties? I really don't want to be one, Tong Tong interrupted at the right time. Go somewhere cool and stay. What honor, what loss, what heroic words, what is an individual's everything? Every time I face this vast ocean, I can feel at ease and forget everything, Xianxia said. On the blue sea, a dreamlike figure came treading on the waves. Looking from afar, it was as bright as the morning sun. Upon closer inspection, it was like the ripples of a lotus flower. Slender figure, perfect posture, fluttering beautiful hair, lustrous white jade-like skin, her entire person was sparkling. On her pure oval face, her eyes were like black gemstones. Her entire person was elegant and graceful, floating lightly. Yi Fan's appointment and Yi Qingwu's arrival were tonight. There would most likely be a great battle, and there might also be a great opportunity. After all, it involved the ancient divine scripture. The sea breeze blew, and the sky gradually darkened. When the last piece of gold on the sparkling sea disappeared, the setting sun completely disappeared. The immortal ascension cliff stood on the shore. It wasn't very tall, but it seemed majestic in the night, like an immemorial divine mountain towering over the vast East Sea. Yi Fan and the others had already concealed themselves. They waited quietly, wanting to know what would happen here. As time passed, the bright moon hung high in the sky. A silver plate sprinkled down a large expanse of gentle white radiance. The sea seemed to be covered with a layer of veil, hazy and pure white. The immortal ascension cliff revealed its extraordinariness. It was like a sparkling and translucent immortal platform that drew upon the essence of heaven and earth, resonating with the stars in the sky. It made people mistakenly think that they could really ascend by standing on it. On this bright moonlit night, not a sound could be heard. Even the blue sea seemed to have stopped, like a huge mirror reflecting the radiance of the jade plate in the sky. They're here, Li Tian said softly. In the distant sky, 18 battleships flew over like 18 clouds, blocking the moonlight and casting a large shadow on the ground. It made people's hearts feel stifled. These are the battleships of the Human King Hall. It's the extravagance of their most respected figures when they travel. Yi Qingwu's voice had a kind of magnetism that moved one's heart. It was like the sound of nature. On the other side, Yan Yishi also said softly, "Someone else is coming." The boundless blue sea was like a huge jewel. There was not a single ripple, and it flickered with bright moonlight. And at this moment, a majestic ancient Taoist temple was flying over silently. This is the ancient longevity Taoist temple of the Netherworld Ridge. This ancient building has stood there for who knows how many tens of thousands of years. Who would have thought that it would rise from the ground and come here today? Yi Qingwu said softly. The few of them were shocked. This ancient Taoist sect was very low profile. There were only a few people in each generation, but every one of them was extremely strong like the current Taoist Sankei, unfathomable. It was obvious that the Human King Hall and the Longevity Taoist Temple were going to exchange the ancient scriptures of the gods. This time they had mobilized so many people. It was definitely for real, and not like the previous few times where they left it unsettled. There was only one page of the ancient scripture left behind by the gods. It was torn into two and was incomparably mysterious. It had been passed down since ancient times, and it was unknown how many people's hearts had been moved by it. There was only one word about its legend: immortality. It was also precisely because of this that it was regarded as an immortal scripture. It was said that if one obtained a complete page of the ancient scripture, it would be difficult for one to die even if they wanted to. There is destined to be a great calamity on the night of the full moon. Since you guys know about it, there will definitely be others who know about it. It is likely that a few of the great kings who died in meditation will come back to life. Yi Qingwu sighed softly. Chapter 746. Under the bright moonlight, everything was bright and clean. The great sea was boundless, the light waves endless. It was vast and boundless, a vast and distant expanse. Immortal Ascension Cliff stood by the seaside. It was entirely sparkling white, as if an immortal platform was drawing upon the spiritual essence of heaven and earth. It resonated with the starry sky, and the moonlight poured down like water, creating a hazy expanse. Human King Hall and Long Life Temple suddenly appeared here, not alarming the people of the world. They quietly left through the realm gates to exchange divine scriptures. Yi Fan and the others held their breaths, hiding in the darkness, not daring to show the slightest bit of carelessness. There were definitely exceptional experts up ahead. Every single one of the 18 warships was several hundred zhang in length. They were like clouds floating in the sky, flickering with a cold metallic luster under the moonlight. The Long Life Ancient Temple stood opposite of them. It was grand and dignified, as if it was an immortal divine palace floating above the great sea. Every single tile seemed to have an ancient imprint engraved on them, an ancient aura wafting over. One of the two floated above the continent, and the other stopped above the blue sea. There was the immortal ascension cliff between them, silently facing each other. As early as several years ago, there were already continuous disturbances. Both sides wanted to exchange ancient scriptures, but reality proved that it was all smoke and mist each time. They each grasped half a page of ancient scriptures, and the relationship between them was too great. Neither side trusted the other, and each time, they were just probing each other. Now the two ancient sex experts all came out. They truly were serious. This time there had to be a result, and it was clear that they were going to merge the divine scriptures into one. This place was peaceful. A bright moon illuminated the blue sea, and only white splendor scattered down. The world was calm and auspicious. Yi Fan and the others couldn't sense the slightest aura from the others, so there were only two possibilities. The first was that the two ancient sects' actions were extremely secretive, and the people of the world couldn't sense anything. The second was that the hidden people were too terrifying and unpredictable. 18 bronze ships, they should be the 18 ancient warships from the ancient legends. They can form an ancient killing formation, something created by an ancient saint. Yan Yishi thought of a certain ancient legend. Human King Hall had an ancient killing formation that was personally refined and laid down by a saint. Its power was exceptional, not inferior in any way to an ancient holy weapon. They were serious now. They definitely brought half a page of immortal scriptures with them. After seeing this scene, everyone made such a judgment. The ancient longevity Taoist temple in the Ming Ridge. No wonder it has stood for hundreds of thousands of years without collapsing. This ancient temple is an ancient divine weapon, Jianghu said softly. A strange light appeared in her limpid eyes. Their actions were so secretive, yet they had such a large entourage. It could be seen that both sides were wary of each other, afraid that the other side would have malicious intentions. I have to say, the Nether Ridge ancient Taoist temple is very scary. They only have a few people, but they can fight against any great sect in the world, Li Tian said. A bronze drum sounded. A cold metallic luster flickered on an enormous warship, and an elder with a head full of white hair walked out. His appearance was fair, plump, and full of vigor. His silver hair fell down like a waterfall as he stood at the bow of the ship. In the sky, the moonlight poured down like water, pouring down on him, making him look like he was cast from silver. Even the crutch in his hand turned into a silver coiling dragon, swallowing the essence of heaven and earth. At this moment, he released a powerful aura that seemed to be able to swallow the heaven and earth and suppress the world. It's him, the clan brother of the human King Hall's old sect master, Feng Yuan. He is 3,300 years old now and is an iron-blooded and powerful figure of this generation, Li Tian said softly. Feng Yuan. This person was extraordinarily terrifying. When he was young, he ran amok in the world and killed many sect master-level figures. After that, he went into seclusion, but every time he appeared, he would kill iron-blooded people. Creak. On the other side, the vermilion door of the Grand Taoist Temple opened slightly, and a Taoist walked out. He was young, but he had the appearance of an otherworldly expert. A bamboo hairpin was inserted in his black hair, and he wore a Taoist robe with a stool and hemp shoes. His eyes were clear as he walked out step by step. This was a very young Taoist priest, but he had the aura of someone who had attained the Tao. He looked otherworldly and refined. Very extraordinary. Taoist San Ke. The few of them recognized him. This was not the first time they had seen him. He was one of the strongest young experts in the world, and he was Yin Tianda's sworn brother. Is he really that powerful? Can he represent the longevity temple? Li Tian was surprised. Yi Qingwu's eyes narrowed, and she shook her head. No, this is Taoist Sang's father, Jianghu. He has cultivated for 800 years, but his strength is enough to suppress everyone. There are very few who can fight him head-on, unless a king appears. He is Taoist Sang's father. Yi Fan was shocked. He knew that some Taoists could marry and have children, but he didn't expect the father and son to be so similar. Jianghu was a powerful Taoist, and it was said that he had 1 foot in the 3rd level of Immortal Foundation. However, he had never been able to cross that threshold. As the few of them discussed, there was a new situation in front of them. The human King Hall's iron-blooded elder, Feng Yuan, was silvery white in color. He held a coiling dragon staff that breathed out moonlight, and he walked in the air towards the immortal cliff. On the other side, Taoist Jianghu was extraordinary, and he was like a young Tao ancestor. He also walked step by step, nearing the jade-like ancient platform. The 2 experts from the Human King Hall and the Longevity Temple ascended the Yuhua Immortal Cliff at the same time. The surface of the cliff was filled with sparkling crystals. At this moment, the 18 ancient battleships shone with a piercing cold light. They formed an ancient formation and evolved into an ancient killing formation. In an instant, a terrifying aura permeated the air. It was like an ancient giant was awakening, peering down at everything under the heavens, traversing through the past and present. The moment the ancient killing formation appeared, it was even stronger than a sacred weapon. On the other side, the majestic Taoist temple also opened its door, transforming into a boundlessly vast ancient world that could contain the sun, moon, mountains and rivers. Terror, trembling. This was the most direct feeling the few of them had. This was truly an ancient sacred weapon, and its might was extremely majestic and terrifying. The ancient killing formation and ancient sacred weapon were aimed at the Yuhua Immortal Cliff at the same time. Both sides were on high alert, afraid that one side would go back on their word and play tricks. At this moment, the atmosphere was tense to the extreme. The void seemed to have frozen, and even a pin drop could be heard. The full moon hung high in the sky, the great sea boundless. The sparkling and translucent stone platform flickered. The iron-blooded elder Feng Yuan and Taoist Jianghu stood opposite each other. The 2 of them didn't say anything, and they each produced half a page of scripture fragments that were bright red like blood. Dense mist rose, endlessly brilliant. Scarlet multicolored light dyed their hands red, almost translucent. There were phoenix cries that sounded, clear and ear-splitting. A page of divine ancient scripture forged from phoenix blood gold. It couldn't be forged even if they wanted to. This type of thing was too precious, rarely seen in 1,000 generations. Moreover, no one would squander money for it. It was unknown just how many years it had existed for. The scarlet multicolored light that should have rushed into the heavens was now restrained within a square meter, and the blood gold was mottled with rust. Yi Fan and the others stared at it without blinking. This was definitely a true scripture. The two great ancient sects didn't fake it, and they both wanted to obtain the perfect scripture. Their hearts were pounding. This was a legendary immortal scripture, and as long as one wanted to die, they wouldn't be able to do so. There were too many mysteries and temptations. Even at this moment, the surroundings were still peaceful. There wasn't the slightest disturbance, and only the bright moon hung high in the sky, gently shining down. The iron-blooded elder Feng Yuan and the transcendent Taoist Jianghu reached out their hands at the same time. In that instant, it was as if time stopped. Both sides finally began to exchange ancient scriptures. Without any surprises, their hearts weren't calm at all. However, they still steadily retreated, on guard against each other. Scarlet multicolored light flowed. Half of the two individuals' bodies were translucent and sparkling like blood crystals. They retreated step by step, and each of them was about to climb off the cliff. It really went smoothly. Not a single outsider came? Li Tian and the others were incredibly bewildered. Could it be that they were the only spectators? Such a secret, there really isn't a single king who knows about it. Yi Qinggu also frowned, feeling that this was unexpected. The people from the Human King Hall and the Temple of Longevity also relaxed. The two ancient holy weapons' absorption of heaven and earth essence slowed down. The two individuals on the cliff also released a breath of relief, preparing to turn around. However, at this instant, a shocking change occurred. A tall figure descended from the starry sky like a flying immortal. In the blink of an eye, he arrived before them. He seemed to have come from the outer realms, and his speed was inconceivable. He pounced towards the iron-blooded elder Feng Yuan. His 5 fingers spread out, and a vast pressure radiated from him. It was as if an unparalleled expert had descended upon the earth, sweeping everything before him with unstoppable momentum. "How dare you!" everyone shouted. The 18 ancient battleships of the Human King Hall all shone brightly, devouring the starlight and moonlight in the sky. They released traces of the great Tao, enveloping the entire area. The ancient saints' killing formation had been revived. However, the changes on the battlefield were beyond imagination. This tall figure was terrifyingly powerful and had an overwhelming advantage. With a single claw strike, half of Feng Yuan's body was shattered, and half of the ancient scripture was snatched into his hands. PFFF. He slammed out with another palm, smashing the iron-blooded elder Feng Yuan into meat paste. He died on the spot. How powerful was this person to be able to do all this? Everyone was shocked. For someone as powerful as Feng Yuan, it was unknown how many years it had been since he ascended the 9th minor step of the immortal foundation level. In fact, he had already taken a step forward and passed the half-step of the 3 slashes of immortals. Yet, such an iron-blooded character was still killed so easily by someone. The person who came was definitely a terrifying grand completion king realm cultivator. On the other side, the same thing happened. A thin and shriveled man suddenly appeared on the crystalline stone platform, traversing the past and present, like a god descending to the mortal world. One of his hands descended, forming an invincible divine domain, trapping the transcendent Taoist priest righteous virtue within, making him unable to move. PFFF. That thin and weak hand of his lightly swung down, and the Taoist priest righteous virtue, who was said to be invincible among immortals, was instantly smashed into pieces. A part of his divine soul escaped. In a short instant, the 2 pages of the immortal scripture created from phoenix blood gold had both changed owners. They were snatched away, causing the 2 ancient sects to be enraged. A grand completion king realm cultivator had arrived. This would definitely be a great battle. Boom! Suddenly, a resplendent rainbow broke through the skies, forcing the shriveled king realm cultivator back with a single strike. He wanted to snatch the half-page of the ancient scripture. A 3rd grand completion king realm cultivator had appeared. Among the 3, One of them is Yin Tianda. Yi Fan spoke because the diamond chakram in his hand trembled. The only imprint within it that hadn't been erased had a mysterious connection with one of the people inside. What? Who is it? Li Tian was astonished. A skinny and shriveled figure, Yi Fan replied. What a good Yin Tianda. Didn't he ride an ox to the west? He actually appeared here and killed his sworn brother's father. Yan Ishi drew in a breath of cold air. Bang! Another demonic godlike man descended from the sky. Different from the others, he didn't conceal himself at all. His long golden hair draped over his shoulders, and his aura was capable of devouring mountains and rivers. The Golden Crow King had arrived. This was the fourth King Realm Cultivator. You killed my people and stole my immortal scripture. None of you should even think about leaving. A dignified voice resounded from the 18 ancient ships. The ancient saints' killing formation sealed everyone inside. As expected, even grand completion kings who died in meditation would come back to life because of the immortal scripture. Yi Qingwu's beautiful eyes glowed with splendor. Chapter 747. The 18 ancient ships had a cold metallic luster. They were treasures left behind by saints that had been tempered by time. At this moment, they all shot out marks of Tao, forming an ancient killing formation that covered the area. The immortal Yuhua cliff was completely white. 4 kings fought back and forth on it, using divine domains, ancient techniques, field energy, and tyrannical fists. They were like falling stars, collapsing the sky as they fought over the 2 divine ancient scriptures made of phoenix blood gold. At the same time, a large silver hand appeared and flew over from the central ship. It reached towards the tall and handsome figure and immediately unleashed a seal. It was as if the lord of the human race had come into being. Not long ago, a person descended from the starry sky like a flying immortal and grabbed Feng Yuan to death, seizing half a page of divine gold with celestial scriptures carved on it. The master of the silver hand was naturally furious. That was his disciple. He attacked with all his strength to kill this king. The divine mark of heaven was carved into the innate origin seal and branded into the palm, becoming the ultimate technique of the human master. It struck downwards like 10 suns falling together and the collapse of the sea of stars. This was the human master seal. The tall man who was being attacked had matchless divine might. 2 beams of demonic light shot out from his eyes. He opened his mouth and spat out the innate Tao essence, which turned into a treasure wheel that obliterated time and space. You're not dead yet. The master of the silver hand said coldly. The divine mark of heaven in his palm became even more resplendent and fell down. Aren't you not dead yet? The tall man laughed coldly. His purple hair scattered, revealing his true appearance. The treasure wheel he spat out became even more resplendent. Heavenly monster treasure wheel. Li Tian's expression froze and he exclaimed, "That's actually the heavenly monster king. Didn't they say he died 500 years ago? He's 3,800 years old now and still hasn't died. He's 100 times stronger than Granny Heavenly Monster." At the center of the battlefield, the human master seal and the heavenly monster treasure wheel collided. It was as if 2 ancient universes had been destroyed and collapsed. This was a scene where mountains and rivers were destroyed and the ages were reversed. It was as if they had arrived at the beginning of the world and everything was returning to the beginning of all things. In the distance, Yi Fan, Yi Qingwu, Li Tian, and the others were astonished. King Tiers who had attained great success were indeed frightening. Who could resist such a battle of divine power? As expected. For the sake of a single page of immortal scripture, a king who I thought had died in meditation has revived. Yan Ishi sighed lightly. With their strength at this level, what else could move them? Only longevity and transcendence, after cultivating this page of ancient scripture, would allow one to not die, and they would naturally take action. The large silver hand slapped down as if it came from outer space. It collided with the heavenly monster king and the 2 clashed fiercely. There was no room for moderation. This was a life-and-death battle between kings. The seal carved from the heavenly divine mark was as dazzling as the primordial light, while the heavenly demon treasure wheel formed from the innate Tao essence was as dazzling as the rainbow of doomsday. It was extremely brilliant, and then it was eternal darkness. 2 ancient divine domains collapsed and fell. The 2 individuals' attacks seemed like they were going to turn the ancient Tao into nothingness. Purple blood seeped out from the corner of the heavenly monster king's mouth as he retreated more than 10 steps. His body swayed, But he still didn't let go of the phoenix blood divine gold paper. A crack also appeared on the large silver hand as it retreated by 3 meters. However, it wasn't a big deal. One could imagine how powerful and terrifying he was. Human King, you are not dead yet. On the other side, the golden crow's golden hair was scattered as he walked over slowly. The sky trembled with each step he took. He was like a demon god. What? He is a human king? He is not dead yet? Yan Yishi was astonished. He originally thought that this was a hidden giant with a terrifying age in the Human King Hall. He didn't expect that he had another identity. You arrogant golden crow, you came to my Human King Hall to behave atrociously 2,000 years ago. If it wasn't for the fact that I'm going through the pain of losing my cultivation, how could I allow you to behave atrociously? The owner of the large silver hand said in a deep voice. The golden crow was now more than 3,700 years old. During his peak, he dared to go to the Human King Hall to steal their goddess. He was full of legends. It was also because of that battle that his foundation was injured. He had to go into seclusion for more than 2,000 years. Others didn't know what kind of opponent he had encountered during that battle. Only now did the truth come to light. Although your cultivation is scattered, you placed your primordial spirit in the goddess immortal platform. You caught me off guard and gave me the most terrifying attack. My body and soul were almost destroyed. I had to go into seclusion for 2,000 years, the golden crow said coldly. Since we met, you can also be considered one of us. Don't even think about leaving, the Human King said coldly. You really have a big tone. On the side, the heavenly demon king's breathing was steady. His injuries had all healed. His purple hair fluttered in the wind as he pressed forward. Although I'm old, I still have some confidence in myself. The Human King spoke as the large silver hand reached out once again. It really is a human king. Yi Qingwu's beautiful eyes flickered with colorful light as if she was very shocked. A person who had been dead for 2,000 years had come back to life. What could be more astonishing than this? This was enough to prove the mysteriousness and terror of the ancient sections. The mortal monarch physique was an extremely terrifying physique. If not, why would they dare to give it such a name? It was rumored that there might not even be one in tens of thousands of years. This was a type of physique that had hope of successfully corroborating one's Tao, a living legend. 3,800 years ago, the Human King Hall gave birth to such a young child. This caused them to go wild with joy. This was simply a gift from the heavens. However, this young child was plagued with misfortune. In less than 100 days, he was plotted against and only managed to survive after 3 years. During this period of time, someone used a forbidden technique to break his sea of reincarnation and injure his immortal platform. His foundation was almost severed, causing them to be on the verge of despair. The Human King Hall was enraged because of this. They purged all suspicious people in the sect. Blood flowed like rivers and over 10,000 corpses were left behind. This was the most terrifying period of the sect. In the end, they finally used an ancient technique to allow the young child to grow up. When he was young, his might shook the world. However, the fate of this mortal monarch physique was truly full of misfortune. There were several times when his sea of reincarnation and immortal platform were broken, causing his cultivation to be scattered. The incident 2,000 years ago was the most severe. It just so happened that the Golden Crow King went to the Human King Hall to snatch the goddess. It was rumored that he died not long after, leaving behind a legacy of regret. After disappearing for over 2,000 years, a human monarch who is over 3,800 years old will definitely shock the world. Li Tian sighed. No wonder he's so confident. Among the few grand completion kings, he suffered the most and had his cultivation scattered a few times. Yet, he's the most confident. Yi Fan was also shocked. This was the first time he encountered such a physique. There's no hope for him to corroborate his Tao. If not, it's impossible for him to endure for so many years. There must be no results from the start. It's one thing for his sea of reincarnation to be destroyed when he was young, but even his immortal platform was destroyed. Even if an immortal were to appear, they wouldn't be able to reverse the situation. Yi Qinggu sighed. A cultivator could die with his physical body, but the foundation of his primordial spirit couldn't be damaged. Otherwise, he would have no hope of corroborating his Tao and would still die. What a pity! A human monarch only appeared after 50,000 years, Yet his Tao foundation was destroyed when he was young. If not, the world today would most probably be his. No one would be able to contend against him. Xianxia sighed. Even so, the human monarch of this era, who was plagued with calamities and disasters, was still extremely terrifying. He wasn't weaker than others and dared to kill grand completion kings. A king whose entire body was sparkling and seemed to be forged from silver flew out from the ancient ship. He had the bearing of a monarch descending from the heavens. He descended on the immortal ascension cliff and slaughtered his way forward. A great battle broke out, wanting to retrieve the immortal scripture he deserved. The human monarch made his move. On the other side, Xianxia concealed himself very well. He didn't reveal his identity. His divine domain enveloped the area and descended, locking down the supreme expert Taoist righteous virtue. He smashed him into pieces and seized half a page of the immortal scripture. However, his current situation was extremely unfavorable. The fourth and final king who arrived was currently attacking him. Divine might overflowed into the heavens, the radiance drowning out even the sky dome. Xianxia is so terrifying. Even though he's clearly at a disadvantage and is about to collapse, his opponent is a grand completion king. Li Tian sighed in admiration. There's a saint artifact in his body. It's ready to be unleashed and is resisting that grand completion king. Xianxia said. Right now, he held the goddess furnace in his hands and felt a strange reaction. After all, this was a famous artifact in the hands of a great emperor since ancient times. Yi Qingwu's clothes were whiter than snow. Her expression was indifferent and she didn't say a single word. Her eyes that were like limpid autumn waters were extremely clear. Her entire being was elegant and intelligent as she calmly observed the battlefield. Yi Fan didn't say anything either. He carefully watched the battle and couldn't help but admit that Xianxia was extremely terrifying. If not for him coincidentally obtaining the diamond band and not erasing the mysterious imprint within, he truly wouldn't have known that Xianxia had arrived. Imitating the ancient people and riding an ox to the west was a lie. He had been waiting for this moment all along. The father of his sworn brother was even mercilessly killed on the spot. What else couldn't he do? Pooh! Suddenly, an expanse of dazzling divine light erupted from the battlefield. A domain that belonged to the light attribute appeared and surrounded Xianxia within. He coughed out large mouthfuls of blood and his body felt like it was going to split apart. Pang! He threw the scripture fragment forged from phoenix blood gold into the air. It was caught by that great completion king-level expert. Then, he seized the opportunity to break out of the domain. Li Tian said, Xianxia suffered a great loss and is about to leave in defeat. Even with a divine artifact, he isn't a match for a great completion king-level expert. Yi Qingwu shook her head and said, You guys don't understand? Is that so? Could it be that he only wants to temporarily withdraw? Li Tian's understanding of Xianxia was indeed limited because this person was too terrifying. He had always avoided him and didn't understand much. Rumbling sounds could be heard as the people of the Longevity Temple took action. That ancient Taoist temple was an ancient divine artifact, and at this moment, it suppressed downwards. It was incomparably majestic. Every tile was polished with the marks of time and flowed with an inextinguishable aura. Radiant King, that is a scripture belonging to my Longevity Temple. Please return it. Not a single person came out from the ancient Taoist temple. There was only a great pressure that descended from the heavens and shook along with the 18 ancient ships. The fourth person was actually the Radiant King. No wonder his radiance rushed into the heavens and illuminated the night sky. Everyone here was shocked. This was a great completion king-level expert that everyone thought had died 800 years ago, and now, he appeared again. There are still people who remember me. Radiant King revealed his true appearance. He wore a radiant robe, his eyes intimidating like a tiger's. He wore a crown on his head, and his black hair was thick. His entire body was resplendent as he walked forward with majestic steps. It was as if a heavenly king had descended into this world. Radiant body was a type of extremely powerful and terrifying physique that was on par with the Divine King body. It was rumored that when Radiant King and Divine King joined hands, the heavenly Tao would be theirs. Swoosh! A figure flickered within the ancient Taoist temple. A lean-looking elder walked out, and as if he was walking on a heavenly ladder, he walked down step by step and arrived in front of Radiant King. The Taoist robe was old-fashioned, and behind him was a yin-yang 8 trigrams. In front